All right, welcome to Friday Night Torah Study. Woo! There you go. That's some excitement. If you weren't ready, you should be ready now. All right, start your engines. Okay, awesome. Well, welcome welcome all to our Friday Night Torah Study. We do this every Friday night at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, with the exception of feasts. So if you like and subscribe, you'll find out when those times change. But we're really excited to gather together. We gather together at 6 p.m. and we start with our Shabbat liturgy, and then we have a meal together and fellowship time, and then we go right into Torah study. So that's a really exciting thing to do, how we welcome and bring in Shabbat. I know we get that question a lot. Well, how can I bring in Shabbat? What is the best way to bring in Shabbat? Well, to have a meal, to fellowship, to bring in the liturgy together with family. What better way than to bring in Shabbat together? So I'm so excited that we get to do that Friday nights. Yeah. Really exciting. And then we go right into the Word and get that right before you go to bed, and then we get up tomorrow and we start it all over again, which is really cool. Really fills up that time, that space. So if this is the first time joining us, once again, we do this every Friday night at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. And what we do is we go through the Torah portion. We have our readers come up, and I'll do a blessing over the readers. We'll go through the Torah portion, which this week's Torah portion is Yitro, which is Exodus 18:1 through 20:26. There are 6 readings. So we'll have the readers come up. They'll read their portion. After that, we'll do a blessing over all the readers. Then we'll have Grayson or Rabbi come up and do the announcements. And after that, we'll have our Midrash and Q&A with Rabbi Steve. So that's the order of the service tonight. And I'm really excited to get started. One of my favorite Torah portions when we go through the 10 Commandments. Really exciting. So what we should be looking for to glean, to get out of this Torah portion, is what we can apply, what we can pull out and apply now in our lives. So that's the goal. That's what we're trying to get. And I know with this one, there's a lot to pull out because it's talking about the 10 Commandments. So really excited to get started with this one. So we're going to have our readers come up. We're going to start with prayer and praise. I didn't mention that part. We're going to start with prayer and praise. So hold off, readers. I know you got your chairs lined up. So we're going to start with prayer and praise. So if you have a prayer or praise and you're here locally, you can come up to the podium. If you're online, you can start typing in it now. It's very interactive, so this is your first time joining us online. Your prayer or your praise may get read out loud, but if it doesn't, if we don't get to it, it doesn't mean that Abba didn't hear it and that he's not going to respond. We know he does all things according to his will, and so we just submit to that, we accept it. And we're going to start here locally with Miss Brandy.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. I wanted to ask for prayer for everything. I mean, y'all been praying so far for everything, and it's starting to reach the climax and just it's building, right? But just more than that, it's just an encouragement for people who don't want counseling. One thing... I know. And I see people get up here and I'm just like, oh my gosh, what could he have possibly said in counseling? And I finally did it. I did. I was one of those people. I was. Okay, I can make my own decisions. I don't need to counsel. But I finally did it. And just to see how it's unfolding is overwhelming. And it just keeps getting better and better and better. And there's a peace. I have such a, thank y'all for your prayers. I have such a peace because after everything is finished, I will totally share details after the dust is settled.
Amen.
But I can just say that it's been life-changing. And just decisions I'm making because of counseling, my life took a whole nother turn.
Amen.
And I wouldn't have normally made these decisions without it. So just more than prayer, I pray for the people who question counseling or had the attitude that I had towards counseling, because it was not a positive attitude.
Amen.
But that comes from a place of not having people to counsel me in my life. You know, you kind of do your own thing. So prayer for that, just to continue the peace as everything starts to build and, you know, finally the dust settles. And hopefully in a couple of weeks. So thank you.
Amen. Amen. Super excited. Super excited about that. Amen. All right. Shabbat shalom, Grayson.
Shabbat shalom. So I have a praise on, and it's more of like an update of how I talked about I had 3 mountains that I was going to be walking up, and I took a huge step of today. I locked down a website URL, and so I'm really excited to see where this will go, and I'm excited that I took this step, and then I know that as I continue trying to fulfill all of the things that I believe that he's called me to do, that he'll just continue to bless me. And I'd just like to ask for prayers, because I'm a big believer in the power of prayer.
Amen.
And I know that if everybody here is praying for me, I know that I'm going to be in a lot better place than I would be if nobody was. And so just huge praises to the Father. And thankfully, like, everything is being put in place to, like, have it culminate to what I think it's going to be. And I'm just excited for the future and for what this will bring.
Amen. Amen. That's awesome. Just let me add something to what Grayson said, because I don't want anyone out there or anyone in here to be confused. Grayson is praying while he's working. A lot of us, we've heard many times, have maybe gotten to the point where we're just praying and doing nothing. If you can't do anything about the situation that you're praying about, there is more you could do somewhere else. So continue to work while you're yet waiting. While you're waiting on that answer to that prayer, continue to move forward. Continue to do those things. We get a lot of people, and I just realized it today in counseling somebody, that Rabbi, he says it all the time, but it just clicked in my brain today counseling somebody. I know when you guys require something from us in counseling, I know it's not my answer. I have full faith and confidence in what I'm giving you, that it's coming from him, because if it was coming from me, I might not want to talk to you. I'm just being real. If it was me, I probably didn't want to talk to you about your situation, because there's so many whiny, undisciplined nonsense that a lot of you carry that you shouldn't be carrying, and you come bringing into counseling. And I'm not knocking you unless that fits. If the shoe fits, wear it, right? So sometimes, if it was me, I know I would like, okay, go back and do what I told you to do. And sometimes I have to do that. But when we know that the answer that we're giving comes from him, I'm not surprised at the response like Brandy shared. I'm not surprised at those responses, because I know where we're receiving from. It's not us. Half the time we want to slam the door, we want to run from the call or whatever it is, not because we don't want the work, but we know that what comes along with that. And a lot of us don't want to do the work that's attached to fixing our problem. We think we're going to come to counseling, and Rabbi and me and Rabbi Tom are going to fix your problems, and we do not fix them. We give you advice, we give you guidance from him in that situation and give it to you. So people come and say, why is my life this way and my life is that way? Well, you didn't listen to the counsel that we gave you months before. No, we didn't know this was going to happen in your life today, but we told you months ago to do something. You didn't take the counsel. So it's not our fault that the thing in your life now is not working out when you didn't take the counsel months ago. Because if it was me, I said, I probably wouldn't have had the conversation. But that person needed to know that if you took the counsel that we gave you, it would have definitely helped the situation that you're in now. And you probably wouldn't have that situation. But a lot of us, me and Rabbi say it all the time, and we tease each other, you just don't listen. So I'm not saying it because we want you to sign up and knock the door down with counseling. That already happens. And I'm trying to hold some of it back, because I need you guys to start working on a lot of these situations yourself before you come. So that way you come with a solution. This is what I think I should do. What do you think? Not, this is all my mess and I need you to fix it. Does that make sense? So I appreciate you guys saying that. And I'll be like, Brandy, can you put on a Band-Aid like she does during the feast? Do you know how to put on a Band-Aid? It's funny. Somebody will get a counseling call or something, and my door's open. You know how Rabbi will come in because he hears it. And I'm just putting Band-Aids on because there's so many calls, right? I'm putting Band-Aids on. And then Rabbi will slip in, and he'll do some immediate surgery. He'll do a whole heart transplant in like 5 minutes. He'll just get in there. And I'm putting a Band-Aid on for 3 minutes. He gets in there in 5 minutes, 8 minutes, the whole call is over, and they're fixed, healed, and in recovery. It's amazing, and I just praise y'all for that. But I really want to encourage you guys, yes, please get the counsel, but know when you get the counsel, it's not us. It is not us. If you believed enough that you came to the anointed, appointed, that Abba has put here to get counsel, and you don't take it, you might get to a point where you get one of those days like today when you come and knock on the door and I say, go away. Until you do what we told you to do the first time. Because that's taking up a spot to somebody that actually will do what we asked you to do. and you'll see the fruit. You'll see the results of that. So praise Yah for that. Didn't mean to jump on that, but we get it a lot. Sometimes I just look at Rabbi, because I don't understand all the time. I just look at him and I shake my head at the time and the patience he takes to pour into you. So many of us, and then we walk away and don't do it. And we come back months later, weeks later, sometimes days later, even hours later. Oh, my life is messed up. Yahweh he must don't like me. I must be under curse. No, you didn't do what we told you to do the 15 times you came before. So maybe you're harming yourself. But anyway, don't let me get into my message for tomorrow. Ashley, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. I want to say thank you for that because I think there was a key word you were missing. It's not that we need to just listen to you and do what you say. Excuse me. Yes, we need to. Sorry, I haven't gone to bed yet. Forgive me. I'm tired. But what I was trying to say was is that you are trying to give us the tools to do what we need to do in order to get it done. Because if you fix it for us, then how are we going to get the next problem done? We can't, because we don't have that tool you let us have or learn how to use to do the next problem with. And we can get so far, and sometimes we have to go back in and go, help.
Amen. Great point.
But thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But I wanted to come up here because last Shabbat we had mentioned that we were looking for doctors for Constantine, and that completely 100% fell through 2 days in a row. And I was able to pull my rat out very well and be like, you know what? I'm done. I'm sick of it. I'm going to get the health insurance I want. I'm going to get the health insurance I need. It's going to happen, whether anyone likes it or not.
Amen.
And it happened, and it's the exact plan I actually wanted. Like, it couldn't just come like a year ago, magically, but no, it had to come now. So, but I'm thankful for it and all that. So, we have our pediatrician appointment to get the referral, I believe, March 1st. So if you guys don't mind praying for that goes well and he can get the referral, and he wants to get it done by Pesach.
Awesome.
So we're hoping. It's a stretch, but we're hoping. The other thing is Agnes went to Nashville today. She doesn't want me to go into it too much, but the part that I can say is she is in a very good spot to proceed forward and to grow and to flourish in a way that this child should not be able to be flourished. So Abba's doing another miracle. So,
Amen.
Abba, Baba. I can't speak. And then the last and final thing, because I need to go to bed over there, is I am leaving Sunday to go to Michigan to take care of some things, and it's just me. So if you guys don't mind keeping me in your prayers, because I haven't driven in the snow since 2019. And I like the snow, but I haven't driven in the snow. It's a completely different thing. So just keep me in your prayers if you don't mind.
Amen. And leave it there when you come back, okay? Don't bring it back with you.
No guarantees.
Yeah, I know. Oh, my. Amen. All right. Shabbat Shalom, Ms. Kat.
Shabbat Shalom, Elder Billy. I got to praise. My daughter made it here safely.
Hey!
And I'd like to ask for prayer for safe travel mercies when she goes home Sunday.
Amen. Amen. You mean we actually letting her go back? Oh, that's what I thought. Okay. All right. Just making sure. Shabbat Shalom, Shamish Waffle.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Okay, let's see. I don't know. Some people may remember December I had to set because of funding with the project. Well, I just got to give a praise because January and February were very abundant. And so, and I know Passover is the beginning. I would hope, I think he keeps me humble enough that I don't have a problem coming up here and saying, Abba, I'm ready for the next thing.
Amen.
So I can take the time to serve like the way I like to for a Passover, so I can have something to walk into after that. So that's a praise and a prayer.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Such an encouragement. Shabbat Shalom, Miss Jana.
Shabbat Shalom, Elder. Shabbat Shalom, Olivier. I know he's watching. So.
I thought you said all of you. You said Olivier.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so sweet. I was like, why are they saying and not saying Shabbat Shalom? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So I'm happy, and that's one of my praise, my first praise that I forgot to give 2 weeks ago when we found out. But you know how following counsel, right? We've trusted the process. He went to Texas, and Rabbi is like, do the best you can, and then when you earn favor, ask for what you want, which is what we want is for him to work from here. So they allow him to now do 1 week here, so work from here. So it's not just 2 days that we get to see him, but a whole week, which is probably for people not a lot, but for us it is.
Oh, man. That's awesome.
Because, I mean, 1 full week for me is like, oh my goodness, a dream, and then Abba can do 2, and then he can do 3, and then, we're learning so much to really delight in the small time that we get to share, and we appreciate each other so much more.
Amen.
And that's all from Abba, really. And from following Rabbi's advice, because he's the one who encouraged us to go in that direction, so that was really cool.
Awesome.
And then I have... So I have a sister in Peru, and she's married. So my brother-in-law, he's been dealing with, so he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, but, and so he's in remission. Well, he's in treatment, but he developed an infection, so he's been in the hospital. So just prayers for his healing, I guess, but also for shalom for my sister, because because of his illness, he hasn't been able to work as much as he was before. So my sister's taking on more and taking on their son, the responsibilities to care for him. So you know how it is. I mean, I admire single moms. I mean, it's amazing how you guys can do it, because it's just 2 in a household is hard. But in her case, she's dealing with a lot of stress. So I just want to keep her in prayers.
Amen. What's her name?
Her name is Cecilia.
Cecilia.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that. That was good.
Yeah, Cecilia.
Thank you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome. You're welcome.
Oh, one more. Sorry.
Sure.
This is a big one that I told Rabbi earlier. I so much praise my Abba Father for Rabbi because he is such a strong, safe place for a lot of the ladies here, the ones that he adopted as daughters. And I had the pleasure to see that in person. I've seen how thinking of this place and Rabbi and his presence brings so much protection and safety.
Amen.
And that's just so beautiful to see, because it makes my work much easier. I mean, it really does, because they are able to from that place of safety, they can process what happened, the terrible things that happened, but it's a blessing to see that. And I don't know, I just don't have enough words to appreciate my father for Rabbi and for everything that he's doing here. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. That's awesome. All right, John. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Lord Billy. I got a prayer request. I'm now getting back into the dating thing. I'm trying to find someone who is Torah pursuant this time, and I make sure I'm putting that in the search bars. So
Awesome.
just prayers that I can find the right one.
Amen. We can certainly pray for that. Amen. That's awesome. Miss Maisie, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Elder Billy. I'm here to give Abba a huge praise. On December 31st, I was watching part 5 of Unity and Division in the Body of Messiah. And Rabbi went to one of his favorite verses that I heard 1,000 times. But this time I heard it a little different. He went to Devarim 8:2. And he pointed out to us who were watching and were in the audience that day that you should remember that Yahweh, your Elohim, led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you, prove you, to know what is in your heart, whether you guard his commands or not. That thing hit me like a ton of bricks. Because at 16, I had become very rebellious against anyone in authority. I didn't care who they were. Police, didn't matter. My earthly father, I was full of anger, bitterness, hate, and self-loathing. I knew that Abba existed, but I didn't have that close, intimate relationship with him. I didn't even know I could have access to him through what Messiah Yeshua did. And after reaching a boiling point where I eventually proceeded down a path of self-destruction, Abba did something beautiful. He gave me a revelation that was so beautiful, in that because of my longing for something greater than myself, he called me after leading me through that wilderness.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
And now I am just wanting to be malleable and moldable in his hands.
Oh, man.
And he is doing amazing things in me through this leadership at this ministry.
Amen.
And I just give him an awesome praise for that.
Oh, man.
Thank you, Abba, for not giving up on me, nor leaving me or forsaking me.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. It's awesome. Awesome. Live stream.
Okay, from MTOI Odessa, Texas, prayer for Joy to feel better. Prayer for Rosita, she got a shot and believing that it helps her with all the pain and for the shot to last for a long time. Prayer for Abigail to have self-control. Oliver Hersey praises, I am taking on more responsibility in my side hustle with Grayson. Development in it is advancing wonderfully. I finally have a new job back in disability. That's his biggest praise.
Amen.
Somnia says, please pray that Yahweh casts away the nightmares that I'm having about shootings. Pamela Schuford, praise Yahweh for Ken. He's doing better. He's doing great. He is doing great. We are going on a small vacation on Sunday. He still needs prayers.
Amen.
Vera Linton, prayer for Tom for healing, and thank you, family. Shabbat Shalom. Larry, New Zealand, love from Gisborne, New Zealand. Prayer for my wife and I for physical healing. From Pepita, says, praise Yah, last Thursday a part of my motorbike was broken, but somehow he let me arrive in a repair shop and the problem solved without any difficulty. Father's been good to me. Melissa Rogers, praise surgery with stepdad went great, and now prayers for speedy recovery and rehab and strength.
Amen.
Marie Budden, Shabbat Shalom, please pray for the salvation of my daughter, Judette. Please pray for the salvation of my husband, John, who's terminally ill. And please pray for Marie to be healed and saved. Anna Kaufman, we will be welcome our second child here any week now, yet our baby is breech. Prayers for us that the baby will be in the best position for delivery.
Amen.
From Sarah Beth, praise. I am feeling so much better, praying that I will be able to dance with you all in person tomorrow. Shelley Bell, praise Yahweh for all he allows and causes. Doctor said the symptoms I had was a mild heart attack last Friday, and prayers please for more revelation on my health moving forward. I am grateful. Thank you. Marlene Stewart, prayer for healing for a pretty bad pain in my arm and hand, maybe sciatica related. Rachel Garcia, prayer for my loved ones to have their bubbles popped and for myself to beat food addiction. John McCormick asking prayer for my brother Michael McCormick Jr. He went through double bypass heart surgery. Also, my son Patrick is going to have knee surgery. Mike Robillard, pray, please for my family. We have to move out of where we are as soon as possible. Please pray that Yahweh open doors and that we can move to where he wants us to be.
Amen.
Have many unspoken on here tonight. Quite a few prayers for families, for their eyes, bubbles to be popped and eyes to open, ears to hear. With some prayers for some financial issues. Simon Gibbs from Sarah Gibbs. Prayers unspoken also for business and progression in better health. Praise Abba for Rabbi and for the challenges.
Amen.
Bonnie Blue, send out prayers for Revis and Joanne.
Amen.
Delia Alonzo, please pray for Yahweh to provide a way for me to move to Cleveland, Tennessee, fix my truck, and and go through some procedures to find out what's going on with my abdomen.
Amen.
Shirley Ockflew, please praise report. All my labs were come back stable.
Amen.
Shirley Ockflew said her heart is being healed. Adelina Newman, please pray for Yahweh's will on a very complicated legal settlement matter. Yeah, we just have several more prayers for people trying to move. Torah Mom, Life Journey, prayer for our move in May to Tennessee. It's from Melinda Willard.
Amen.
And just one last one for my household. Today we had to put down another dog of ours, an 11-year-old little dog that we had this morning. Basically just her heart gave out on her, so we had to have her put down. So that's why my wife and kids aren't here this evening. So anyway, that's it. We're caught up.
Amen. Amen. We also want to keep, someone mentioned it, I was going to mention it, keep Rabbi Tom and Rebbitzin Joanne in prayer. She went, as you know, from Shabbat, she went for procedure Thursday. And they sent her home, and she's recovering, and she's doing well. So please don't bother them if you haven't seen their Facebook post. Give them some space. They have what they need. They know where to call, who to call to get assistance, and they just want and ask you guys to give them some respect and love and not bother them. They'll reach out if they need to do so. So we're so happy and excited for both of those two tanks. I mean, they are, oh my gosh. They are, yeah, let it be an inspiration. I mean, they are two very strong individuals, and they're a very strong couple. So we're so very thankful for them. Also, I want to keep in prayer, Rebbitzin Julie is leaving me. She's going away on a trip to visit her dad, and so we want to keep her in prayer. Also keep Rabbi and the kids in prayer while she's gone. I know we'll all miss her. Keep her team in prayer as they're without her. But we want to make sure we're all praying for her safety going to and from, and keep her safe. So, all right. With that being said, can we get a volunteer, one of the men to volunteer to pray, 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 pray. It's so hard. No. Come on, Andrew. I was going to mess with Joseph Neal because him and his wife are visiting with the kids. I was going to get him, but he wants to chill out, so that's okay. We'll get him tomorrow. Make sure you get him tomorrow, Shamish Gary. All right.
Another opportunity to gather together and hear your word. We are glad with those of us who bring their praises to you and join in prayer with those who have expressed the need. We ask that as we hear your word being read and explained, that you would open our eyes and our ears so that we may understand what you are saying to us and respond to what we hear in a way that pleases you. We bring this prayer to you in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Andrew. It was awesome. All right. So if you're just joining us, this is our Friday night tour study. We do this every Friday night at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, with the exception of feasts. The times may change, and if you like and subscribe to our channel, you'll get those updates. Why do I keep talking about liking and subscribing? Because all the children told me to do it. No, I'm kidding. My kids running around the house with their cell phones. Like and subscribe. I was like, who are you posting to? Anyway, I'm going to send them to a class with Grayson to learn how to do all that stuff. Anyway, the reason we do that, or we say that, or we appreciate that, is because the more attention that we can get, then we'll show up and pop up on Facebook and the different social media platforms for available content when somebody types in what they're looking for. They type in Messianic anything, we'll pop up everywhere. So that's why we do it. And also, if you're looking at something else, we may pop up on the sidebar, which many of us have found this ministry from the sidebar. So we want to get off the sidebar and get on the front page, And so that's why we say it, because the more people that we can make this available to, that give them access to this, they may be looking for it, we give them access by doing that. So I know it's all muddy, but anyway, you know what I mean. So that's why I say it. So what we do, we go through the Torah portion. We'll have 6 readers come up, and they'll read their portion. After they read their portion, we'll do a blessing over all of them before they read, and then after all the readers read. Then we'll go through the announcements. Are you doing the announcements, Grayson? Grayson Gardner will take us through the announcement after that, and then after that, we'll have the Midrash and a Q&A with Rabbi Steve, which is really exciting. So this week's Torah portion is Yitro, Exodus 18:1 through 20:26. There's 6 readers. Really exciting portion for me because it deals with the 10 Commandments, one of my favorites. And so I'm really excited to get through this, to get into this Torah portion. We should all be trying to find out what we can glean out of the Torah portion and apply to our lives. Now, tomorrow, forever, what can we get out of it? And with this one, we all know we can get a lot out of it because we should be keeping it as frontless before our eyes, right? Keeping it in front of us, the commands. Follow his commands. If you love me, obey my commands. Amen? Amen. So if we get our 6 readers to come on out. I tried to look at the Bibles and guess whose seat that belongs to, but the only thing that worked was that little ball, because I know who that belongs to. The little fuzzy ball. Let's see. I did not guess. But that's awesome. So our first reader is going to be Taylor. There's a weird guy over there just making a bunch of noise. I don't know. You know him? It's her husband. Yeah. All right. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Taylor, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen. All right, you're going to take us from chapter 18, verse 1 through 12.
And Yitro, the priest of Midian, Moshe's father-in-law, heard of all that Elohim had done for Moshe and for Yisrael, his people, that Yahweh had brought Israel out of Mitzrayim. And Yitro, Moshe's father-in-law, took Zipporah, the wife of Moshe, after he had sent her back, and her 2 sons, of whom the name of one was Gershom, for he said, I have been a sojourner in a foreign land. And the name of the other was Eleazar, for he said, the Elohim of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Yithro, Moshe's father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moshe in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of Elohim. And he had said to Moshe, I, your father-in-law Yithro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons with her. And Moshe went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. And they asked each other about their welfare, and they went into the tent. And Moshe told his father-in-law all that Yahweh had done to Pharaoh and to the Mitzrites for Israel's sake, all the hardship that had come upon them on the way and how Yahweh had delivered them. And Yithro rejoiced for all the good which Yahweh had done for Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Mitzrites. And Yithro said, Blessed be Yahweh, who has delivered you out of the hand of the Mitzrites and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of the Mitzrites. Now I know that Yahweh is greater than all the mighty ones, indeed, in the matter in which they acted proudly above them. Then Yithro, the father-in-law of Moshe, brought an ascending offering and other slaughterings unto Elohim, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with the father-in-law of Moshe before Elohim.
Amen. Thank you, Taylor. Next up, we have Victoria. Do you know that lady back? Oh, yeah, the fully read one. Yeah, okay. That's her mother. There you go. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Victoria, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen. All right, you're going to take us from verse 13 to the end of the chapter.
And it came to be Moshe Moshe sat to the rightly rule the people, and the people stood before Moshe from morning until evening. And then the father-in-law of Moshe saw all that he did for the people, and he said, "What is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit by yourself, and all the people stand before you from morning until evening?" And Moshe said to his father-in-law, "Because the people come to me to seek Elohim. When they have a matter, they come to me, and I rightly rule between one and another, and I make known the laws of Elohim and his Torah." And the father-in-law of Moshe said to him, "What you are doing is not good. Both you and these people with you shall certainly wear yourselves out, for the matter is too heavy for you. You are not able to do it by yourself. Now listen to my voice. Let me counsel you, and Elohim be with you. Stand before Elohim for the people, and you shall bring the matters to Elohim. And you shall enlighten them concerning the laws and the Torah, and show them the way in which they should walk, and the work which they should do. But you yourself seek out from all the people able men who fear Elohim, men of truth, hating unfair gain, and place these over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s. And they shall rightly rule the people at all times. And it shall be that they bring great matter to you, that they shall bring every great matter to you, but they themselves rightly rule every small matter. So make it lighter for yourself, for they shall bear with you. If you do this word, and Elohim shall command you, then you shall be able to stand, and all this people also go to their place in peace." And Moshe listened to the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he said. And Moshe chose able men out of all Israel, and made them heads over people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s. And they rightly ruled the people at all times. The hard matters they brought to Moshe, but they rightly ruled every small matter themselves. And Moshe sent off his father-in-law, and he went away into his own land.
Man, great reading. Thank you, Victoria. Next up, we have Gabby. I guess this is a regular routine. They're just gonna hoot and holler the whole Torah study. And that was her mama. It must be Mama's Day. What in the world? Sorry, back to regular schedule program. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Gabby, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him, bless her and her family, and it's your mama's fault, and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of your hands. Amen. All right, now let's see if we can get into chapter 19, reading verses 1 through 13.
And in the third new moon, after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Mitzrayim, on this day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. For they set out from Rephidim, and had come into the wilderness of Sinai, and camped in the wilderness. So Yisrael camped there before the mountain. And Moshe went up to Elohim, and Yahweh called to him from the mountain, saying, "This is what you are to say to the house of Yaakov, and to declare to the children of Israel. You have seen what I did to the Mitzrites, and how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. And now, if you diligently obey my voice, and shall guard my covenant, then you shall be to me a treasured possession above all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a reign of priests and a set-apart nation. Those are the words which you are to speak to the children of Israel." And Moshe came and called for the elders of the people, and set before them all these words which Yahweh commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, "All that Yahweh has spoken we shall do." So Moshe brought back the words of the people to Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Moshe, "See, I am coming to you in a thick cloud, so that the people hear when I speak with you and believe you forever." And Moshe reported the words of the people to Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Moshe, "Go to the people and set them apart today and tomorrow, and they shall wash their garments, and they shall be prepared on the third day. For on the third day Yahweh shall come down upon Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. And you shall make a border for the people all around, saying, 'Take heed to yourselves that you do not go up to the mountain or touch the border of it.' Whoever touches the mountain shall certainly be put to death. Not a hand is to touch it, but he shall certainly be stoned or shot with an arrow, whether man or beast, he shall not live. When the Yovel sounds long, let them come near to the mountain.
Thank you. Great reading. I'm still reading. I lost my highlight. Okay. Next up, we have Miss Janet. He who blessed up. And y'all didn't do one more time. I can see if your husband was here, but I don't even know who did that. Oh, it was Jessica. I know. I heard it over. I saw it. He who blessed our, y'all didn't have something in the cookies or something. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may bless Miss Janet, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen. All right, you're going to take us from verse 14 to the end of the chapter.
And Moshe came down from the mountain to the people and set the people apart, and they washed their garments. And he said to the people, "Be prepared by the third day. Do not come near a wife." And it came to be on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain. And the voice of a shofar was very strong, and all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moshe brought the people out of the camp to meet with Elohim, and they stood to the foot of the mountain. And Mount Sinai was in smoke, all of it, because Yahweh descended upon it in fire. And its smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace, and all the mountain trembled exceedingly. And when a voice of the shofar sounded long and became very strong, Moshe spoke, and Elohim answered him by voice. And Yahweh came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain. And Yahweh called Moshe to the top of the mountain, and Moshe went up. And Yahweh said to Moshe, "Go down and warn the people, lest they break through unto Yahweh to see, and many of them fall. And let the priests who come near Yahweh set themselves apart too, lest Yahweh break out against them." And Moshe said to Yahweh, "The people are not able to come up to Mount Sinai, for you warn us, saying, make a border around the mountain and set it apart." And Yahweh said to him, "Come, go down and then come up, you and Aaron with you. But do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to Yahweh, lest he break out against them." And Moshe went down to the people and spoke to them.
Amen. Thank you, Miss Janet. Next up, we have Jessica. Okay, I was just making sure we continued the cookie madness. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may bless Jessica, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen. All right, you're going to take us into chapter 20, reading verses 1 through 17.
And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, "I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of slavery. You have no other mighty ones against my face. You do not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them nor serve them. For I, Yahweh your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookednesses of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing loving commitment to thousands, to those who love me and guard my commands. You do not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught, for Yahweh does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahweh your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart. Respect your father and your mother, so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. You do not murder. You do not commit adultery. You do not steal. You do not bear false witness against your neighbor. You do not covet your neighbor's house. You do not covet ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Jessica. And our last reader is Miss Maisie. Just as I thought. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Miss Maisie, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen. You're going to take us from verse 18 to the end of the chapter.
And all the people saw the thunders, the lightning flashes, the voice of the shofar, and the mountain smoking. And the people saw it, and they trembled and stood at a distance, and said to Moshe, You speak with us, and we hear, but let not Elohim speak with us, lest we die. And Moshe said to the people, Do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you, and in order that his fear be before you, so that you do not sin. So the people stood at a distance, but Moshe drew near the thick darkness where Elohim was. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Say this to the children of Israel. You yourselves have seen that I have spoken to you from the heavens. You do not make besides me mighty ones of silver, and you do not make mighty ones of gold for yourselves. Make a slaughter place of earth for me, and you shall slaughter on it your ascending offerings and your peace offerings, your sheep and your cattle. In every place where I cause my name to be remembered, I shall come to you and bless you. And if you make me a slaughter place of stone, do not build it of cut stone, for if you use your chisel on it, you have profaned it. Nor do you go up by steps to my slaughter place, lest your nakedness be exposed on it.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Miss Maisie. Thank you to all the readers. Let's give them a hand. And the prayer after the Torah reading. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen, amen. All right, Grayson is going to come up and take us through the announcements, and after that, Rabbi will come out and lead us through the Midrash and the Q&A. So get your comments ready. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. So I will definitely be bringing my A game, as I do feel the pressure as I am following the amazing performance of Brianna last week, who took over when I was unable to. She did an absolute amazing job, and so I will be doing my best here tonight. And so with that, I'd like to start by welcoming our guests. As children of Abraham, we'd like to exemplify his trait of hospitality. And for our guests, while we will be doing our utmost to treat you as guests, we would appreciate it if you could behave as guests. So even if we're doing something you disagree with or you think we're wrong, we would appreciate it if you could conduct yourselves in a Yeshua-like manner. And for our guests, everything that I'm about to get into that we offer as a ministry is 100% free and there to be a blessing to those who will find it. So we do 2 live streams every week, the first being our Shabbat service, which happens live here on YouTube every Saturday. It goes live at 1:15 at the sounding of the shofar and typically lasts for a little bit over 4 hours, going till around 5:30. The second live stream that we do is our Torah study, which is taking place right now. This service begins at 7:30 and follows our Erev Shabbat meal that we do here locally at 6. And so this service starts with the word being read and is then followed by a midrash portion with our rabbi, where he'll come out and go over the notes that he has for the portion, and then the floor will be open for any questions or comments on things that were not covered. And so if you want to follow along with us as we go through the Torah Parsha schedule, we do have ours available on our website. You can go to MTOI.org, and it will be under the Media tab. We have the Torah, Half Torah, as well as the Brit. And so the Brit is a little bit different, as it is on a 4-year cycle. And so each year we will be reading one of the Gospels and then the rest of the Brit. And so that is available on our website if you want to follow along with us. And so while we have our rabbi to ensure that we're understanding the Torah portion at our level, we have our MTOI Parsha Pearls program to make sure that our children are understanding the Torah portions at their level in a way that is fun and engaging for them. And so if you want to access this amazing program, you can go to ymtoi.org. It has its very own website. And this is something that is made by us for us. Nothing is went and grabbed from online. It's all made in-house. And this is led by our very own Rebbitzin Julie and her amazing team. And so this program is broken up into 2 different age groups. We have our Gem Seekers, or Katan Aleph, which is ages 5 through 8, as well as Pearl Seekers, or Katan Bet, which is ages 9 through 99 plus. And we put 99 plus there because we believe that because of the immense amount of value that are in these programs, that regardless of how many years you've been in Torah, that there's something that there will be for you to glean from it. And so each program includes child-friendly stories and lessons, lesson questions, Hebrew word studies, memory verses, word searches, crossword puzzles, mazes, crafts, notebook pages, coloring pages, songs, and a snack that are all related to that week's Torah portion. And so these are posted on Sunday, so that way you'll be able to use it throughout your week. And then they will also be available for you to use on Shabbat, as it is guaranteed to take up a fairly large amount of your child's time, as it is a 35-page robust program, and it's all related to the Torah portion. And so this is the program that we do at our Shabbat school on Shabbats. And so I would highly recommend using this as a resource. If you're somebody who enjoys listening to the word read, we do have audio scripture readings available on our website. And this is done by our very own Shira Wendling. Shira's done an amazing job reading from Genesis to Revelation in her own narrative style, and for the first 5 books, she even broke it up by Torah portion. So if you want to listen to next week's Parsha, you can go ahead and find that under MTOI.org, under Media, and then you'll be able to find that, and you'll be able to listen to that in advance if you would like to. So we do upload on YouTube every weekday, so Monday through Friday. Starting with Monday, we have our first look, which is sort of our movie preview for the full teaching that will be posted later in the week. So this is powerful sound bites that are taken out and put together to really just get you into the right mindset to receive the full teaching that will be posted later in the week. On Tuesday, we have our MTOI shorts. And so these are 10 short 1-minute videos that are just powerful sound bites that are taken out. And so if you find yourself with a few extra minutes in your day, I would highly recommend you use this as a resource, as it is something that will be able to help you get in that space of vertical connection in just a fraction of the time that it would take to watch a full teaching. So there are about 10 of these that are posted on our shorts on our YouTube page, as well as there are different ones that are posted in-app, and that will be under the Rabbi Trails. On a Wednesday, we have our full teachings, which are posted, and we are currently going through the Be Set Apart series. And following each teaching on Thursdays, we have our afterburns. And so the afterburn is about an hour-long question and answer time following each teaching to make sure that we really received the message that our rabbi was trying to teach us. So people will ask questions, people will give comments, and then our rabbi will further expand upon things that people were confused about, and it ends up being almost a mini teaching of its own. And so every Thursday, Afterburn is connected to that Wednesday's full teaching. On Friday, we have our In Focuses. And so these are shorter, like 5, 6 to 10 minute long videos where our rabbi really covers a subject in just that amount of time. And so we take it and we pull it out and we make it a video of its own. And so if while you're watching this, you want to get the full context from the teaching that it's from, there'll be a link on the side and you can click on that if you are interested. Aside from YouTube, we are on other social media platforms, including Facebook and Instagram. We are MTOI Worldwide on Facebook, and then the Instagram is slightly different as it is MTOI_worldwide. And make sure that while you're following those that you turn notifications on so that way you can stay up to date with what we have going on here. Another app that we are posting on is our very own MTOI app. And I am happy to share that we have 1,857 downloads. So we are just racing our way to the big 2K. I know it's a big milestone that we are all just looking forward to and in great anticipation and excitement. And I know that it'll only just be a matter of time before we hit that. And so if you are downloading the app and you want to make sure that you're getting the maximum use out of it that you can, you're going to want to make sure that you have the notifications on, so that way you'll be notified whenever a message is sent out through the app. So in order to do this, you are going to want to click on the 3 bars on the upper left, go to Settings, Notifications, and then make sure that the General is swiped to green. Another program that we do here as a ministry is one that is for our teenagers, and this is Torah Teens on Zoom. And this takes place every Thursday at 1 p.m. with our very own Rabbi Tom Mitchell. Rabbi Tom's done an amazing job creating a space where the teens feel like they can not only open up and connect with each other, but as well as the Word, as well as being able to understand and work on what a proper relationship with a member in the vertical structure looks like. And so I have heard absolutely nothing but amazing things about this class, and I would highly recommend that if you are a teenager that you attend. And so this is a program that is for teenagers, which means that if you are below 13, you should not be in the room, and if you are above 19, you should not be in the room. If you're a parent and you're concerned about what your child might be learning, that's fine. Feel free to sit in the room, but make sure that you are off camera, as Zoom is a video chat format. And so we really want to create this as a space where the teens feel they can be themselves. And if there's another adult in the room, they're going to be more conscious of what they're thinking, and they're going to be more inclined to edit and might not ask all the questions that they would otherwise. And so just make sure that you are off camera. And then once you feel comfortable with what your child's learning, feel free to step out of the room so that way they can experience the class for themselves without you there. And so if you want to participate, just send an email to torahtime@mtoi.org, and then an auto-response link will be sent back to you, and then you'll be able to access the class from there. And again, this is on Thursday at 1 p.m. EST. As an international ministry in an effort to serve people around the world while at Shabbat where they are, our rabbi has broken the world up into different zones, with each zone having about a 2-hour-long question and answer time with our rabbi. And so the next one we have coming up will be on February 11th, and this is our Zone 2 Shabbat Q&A, and this will be taking place at 10 a.m. EST, and it is tomorrow. And so this is for the people in the time zones of United Kingdom, Europe, Africa, and other countries that are around that general time zone. And again, this is taking place at 10 a.m. EST on Zoom. And so if you want to participate, which I would highly encourage you to do so, you would email zoom@mtoi.org, and then an auto-response link will be sent back to you, and then you will be able to access the room from there. So our previous Zone 2 or Zone 3 record was 155. And I believe last week for Zone 1, we had over 600 devices logged in, which is just incredibly exciting. And so that is the one that we do here on YouTube. And so I am very confident that after all 600 plus of you got to experience the Zone 1, that you guys will see the value, understand just the power that we have by able to ask him questions and be able to get his insight. And so I promise you it does not change, and you do not get any less value because it's on Zoom. And so I would just highly recommend and encourage you to just wake up a few hours earlier if that's what it takes. But there is an immense amount of value that is going to be in the Zone 2 meeting. And if you miss it, you just miss it. These are not recorded. And so what's being said in these Zone meetings is only going to be said while it's said, and then it's gone. So if you miss out on your opportunity, there is a blessing that you will be missing. And so I would just like to highly encourage you to attend Zone 2 tomorrow, and I'm sure, and I'm very confident that we will be able to break the record of 155. And so if you feel like you could be somebody who could help break that record, we probably need you, so make sure you're there tomorrow. So after that, the next one we have coming up will be on February 17th, and this will be our Zone 3 Shabbat Q&A, which will be taking place that Friday night at 10 p.m. EST, following the Torah study that we will be doing here locally. And so this is for Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Philippines, Malaysia, India, China, Fiji, I believe, are some other countries of which we have people who are in attendance from. And so this will be following our tour study. So right after you're done watching this, you can go ahead and just go onto Zoom and join us there. And the fun will continue and the learning will as well. And again, if you want to participate in these meetings, you simply just need to email zoom@mtoi.org, and then you'll have a link, and then that will be the same link that you'll use for all of the zone meetings. Next up after that will be on March 4th, and this will be the Zone 1 live stream Shabbat Q&A, and this will be taking place on that Shabbat during the regular teaching time, and this will be on YouTube. And so last month was our turn to ask questions, and so this next month will be for the live stream. So make sure that if you are in the Zone 1, which means United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, Central America, and the other time zones, the other islands in those time zones, that you come with your questions ready. If you're somebody who's not comfortable asking a question in either a zone meeting or by contacting the offices, I would highly encourage you to reach out to the mtoi.org-contact-us or questions@mtoi.org. If you have something that is an urgency, which means that for the next 1 to 2 days, the information will no longer be of use to you, I would highly recommend you call the offices, as that is the best way to get in touch with leadership in a timely manner. Some important dates that we have coming up are on February 21st, we'll be having our Rosh Hodesh for the month of Adar. And so this will be taking place that night at 7 p.m., and there will not be a meal, but feel free to bring desserts, and those will be enjoyed after the service. On February 12th, we have our leadership meeting, which is this Sunday. And this is a date that we should all be paying attention to, as we should be praying for our leaders. These are men that are taking hours out of their day to gather together from around the world with the sole intention of working together as effectively as they can to serve the body and the Father to the best of their ability. And so we should be praying for our leaders. Next up after that, we have Purim coming. And so this will be on March 7th, and we will be having a meal at 6 p.m., which will be followed by a Purim play and celebration. And I have heard that there are some doubters out there on my ability to learn my lines. And I will say I don't know where that's coming from. I only have 6, and I pretty much got it all done, so I can assure you that if it's not broadcasted, it's not my fault, but I'm also fully prepared to accept the full responsibility, as I believe one of Elder's favorite sayings is, it's Grayson's fault. And so I have gotten a lot of practice at accepting responsibility, and so I am prepared to do that again.
It's not just Elder's favorite phrase.
Good to know, good to know. And so after that, we have Pesach coming. And so we will be celebrating here from April 5th to the 13th, and we currently have 256 people registered. And as somebody who registered last week, if you haven't registered, what are you doing? Come on. We should be respecting our leadership and what they have said, and they have told us that they would appreciate it if we get it in early, and so we should be getting it in early. And I can say that now since I have gotten mine in.
And for the last 2 months, we've been looking at you like, Grayson, what are you doing?
I did it, though. And so registration is still open and available at mtoi.org/Passover. So feel free to head there and register. And so to make sure that we are not doing this last minute, so that way the leadership has plenty of time to get numbers ready and prepare all of the supplies that will be needed in terms of food and chairs and all of that setup. It's an immense amount of work, and I'm sure that it's significantly easier when they have a more accurate number going into it. And so I believe that is all for the announcements. Please help me and welcome me up, Rabbi Steve.
You guys already been doing all kinds of cheering today. And by the way, Elder, we couldn't hear any of that on the live stream, so whatever you were hearing didn't actually go over the stream. So people on the stream are probably going, what is he hearing? He was just making it up. Nothing was actually happening. And it really was Grayson's fault anyway, so. Since that's our favorite go-to phrase, apparently. No. All right. Excellent job, Grayson. Thank you for doing the announcements there. Very good. All right. Okay, let me add a few things here to the list. First of all, I do apologize for not putting in date order. The leadership meeting should have come before the Rosh Kodesh announcement, but I'll fix that for tomorrow. For those of you that are still, haven't gotten your registration in, the deadline for registering is a month away. Okay? Now, we will accept registrations potentially after that if we have space, et cetera, but you need to get your registrations in. It says it right on the form by March 10th. Okay, so we got a month. Just want to throw that out there so that you know, because today is February 10th, so you got exactly a month. So just keep that in mind. Let's get this registered. We got 256 already registered. We expect it to be over 400. We start getting over 400, we start running out of space in the dining area for the meals. So if you want to be in there, you need to go ahead and get your registrations in. All right, now, a couple of other things really quickly. So the giving statements have gone out. I do want to say one more thing about the giving statements. First of all, I really appreciate that for the vast majority of you, except one person, for the vast majority of you, you've done really well in calling up our third-party vendor and asking for help, and they've been really great about helping you, and everybody's been really great, because we've gotten feedback from both sides. From the people on our side that have had issues to go over to get them resolved, and people there said that people that called them were very nice, except for one or two of you. Okay, look. First of all, I'm going to smack a few people. That money wasn't given to give you a tax benefit. If you gave that money to get a tax benefit, let me know and I'll send it back to you. That is not why you gave the money. You gave it because Yahweh said to. You happen to also be able to get a tax benefit. By the way, most of the people that complained don't give enough to get a tax benefit. So I don't even know why they make such an issue. Well, I gave 3 checks and you only know about 2 checks. Okay, but that's not enough to get a tax benefit. Maybe you don't know how taxes work. Okay, but you get a very large standard deduction that you'd have to overcome with all of your itemized things, otherwise you would itemize. Most people do not, if they're not in business for themselves, have enough itemized items to deduct. But here's the disappointing thing. We've had a few people call up and be less than polite to the vendor. It's not their fault that something got missing or that it didn't get accounted for correctly or something like that. And then people are then having a meltdown and accusing us of, what do you guys know what you're doing? We're not accountants, we're ministry. Okay? As a matter of fact, I don't see one verse anywhere in the scriptures where the Levites had to keep track of everybody's donation. Okay? This is where we're missing the mark. Okay, we're missing the point. We try our best, and trust me, we will fix anything that's in error. And yes, you may need to send a copy or proof of something that you sent because we may have lost it, and that happens. Oh, but you cashed it. Yes, we deposit, but we deposit a lot of money all the time in nice large batches of checks and things that come in. And sometimes a check can get mismarked or something and not get credited properly. That does happen in every ministry everywhere. Okay? But I don't understand is why you think you should be throwing a fit over this and how that makes you like in a higher righteous position than us because we screwed up your donation record. Okay? So, I don't get that. So, quite frankly, anybody out there, if you're having a problem, please let me know. I'll send you back your money. You guys can go somewhere else. I don't want it. Okay? If you're not going to be walking this out trying to become Yeshua-like, I don't need your money. All right? And that's why I'm not going to play games with that. Things do happen. And you know what? You should be showing as much of the fruit of the Spirit and Yahweh-like and Yeshua-like behavior above and beyond anybody else in dealing with a problem. No, instead, you pitch a fit like a baby like everybody else in the world. So what is that showing everybody? And I'm not kidding. We got all week long people contacting us about dumb things, pitching fits. Okay? And so I want to just sit here and say, if that's really where you are and that's where you're at with your walk, please don't send us any money, and please don't ask me to track it. That money is Yahweh's money, and I don't have to track it. The government makes me do that, and we do the best we can, and if there's a mistake, we'll fix it. But I'm just disappointed in the response that you would embarrass him, us, and everybody else by treating the third-party vendor who is neutral in all this, okay? And trust me, if there was a mistake made, it was not made probably by them. It was probably made by me in documenting what I sent them. And that can happen. So go ahead and give me the grief, which makes no sense either. But that's the kind of stuff that you do. It just makes no sense to me. I don't get it. All right? I really don't get it. All right. By the way, I know Elder was talking a little bit during the prayer time about people that are coming for counseling and needing counseling. Okay, I'm going to also throw this out there. If your adult child contacted us for counseling, didn't like it, and then whined and complained to you, and then you're going to contact us because you don't like the way we handle them, I think you are missing the point. If your adult son had to run to mommy because Rabbi was mean to me, are you kidding? And you think the problem is me? When your 44-year-old boy, not man, called here, was given something strong that he needed to hear, didn't like it, got his feelings hurt, ran to mommy. Look, I'm not playing games with this. I don't have the time. There's people that really want help, okay? As Janet came up and talked about, and others came up and talked about. And sometimes that help is the truth in your face, okay? Look, and I can't blame the person who had the little emotional meltdown because that's where they are in life. That's why they called me, because they don't know how to adult. And I said to them, well, listen, you're going to need to put on your big boy pants and learn how to adult. Whatever I said, I don't even remember the conversation. But the point is, if your child, who's over the age of 18, comes whining to you about counseling with one of us, you need to send them back to us. Why would you step up and protect your little baby? He's an adult. Or she's an adult. Are you kidding me? Seriously? You guys, I'm telling you, we should make this into like a reality TV show. You wouldn't believe. You would not believe what we go through every day. Every day. I mean, Elder and I just looking like they're retarded. I don't know what to say. I'm not kidding. We just don't know what to do. He can't believe I just said that. It's really him who says that, by the way, not me. I would never say anything like that. He's mean. He's the mean one. Elder said it was Grayson's fault. Okay, there you go. Good. Actually, Elder didn't say anything. All your friends threw you under the bus and said it was your fault. All the people sitting next to you, Grayson, were like, oh, it's Grayson's fault. Look, I'm not whining or complaining. It's just a waste of time, and it's a waste of energy. There's the bigger the ministry gets in terms of the volume of people that we're helping, not big because we're so big, but the more people we're helping, the more I want to make sure I'm spending time with those who actually want help, okay? And what is the definition of that? Those who are going to take what we tell them and do something. We had another person this week complaining and whining about their life. Yet this is the same stuff that we warned them about 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 4 months ago, and they still haven't done it, and now they're all upset. Well, why are you upset? You haven't done anything we told you to do for a year. But then they're like, well, Yahweh must hate me. No, you must hate you. Because you keep doing dumb things to make your life miserable. You could do what we tell you, and by the way, Brandy told you it, and others get up here and tell you it. It works. Okay? All right, I mean, it works. What does it take for you to get that and give it a try? But you're going to call us up and whine and complain, well, I've been praying and I've been repenting and I've been doing this, and Yahweh isn't hearing me. Because you're not doing anything. Oh, but I'm praying. Look, some of you won't like it when you call me up for counsel and you're telling me, well, that you're praying and you're studying, and I was like, but you need a job. Take your face out of the book and go get a job. You're making a whole bunch of money and don't need any money? Good, put your nose in the book. There's plenty of time on Friday night and Saturday and before you go to bed or whatever to put your face in the book. All the rest of that productive time, go do what you're supposed to adultly. As an adult, go do what you got to do. I don't know what else to say. It's unbelievable. And then some of you will think, well, it's unfair, because the rich just keep getting richer. The rich work harder than you. Okay? Well, it's the system. No, they're working the system. The system didn't just do anything. They learned the system, and they're working it. It would work for you, too, if you go out and do something. And a lot of you are then acting like the jobs that you go to apply for are beneath you. Really? What job is beneath broke? Okay, I'm serious. Well, my pride. What pride? You're broke. You should be already embarrassed and ashamed. Sitting around broke. I'm not talking about if something just happened to you yesterday. Well, get up and do something. As a matter of fact, get up and do multiple somethings. And by the way, I'm not talking about any one person. We get 15 calls like this every week, every day almost. So if you think I'm talking about you, of course I am. And the 15 other people that called me yesterday and the day before and the day before, the same problem. And today even. With the solution to almost all these problems is get up and get a job. Or do what the counseling gave you to do. Oh, I'm just praying. And I was sitting there going, shut up. Go get a job. All right, stop talking. I don't know if I can count that as one because I said he said it. Okay? All right. You got me all riled up. My scriptures was upside down. I was going to be... I look at my book, I'm like, that doesn't look right. I gotta turn this around. All right, there's more on my list here. Okay, the other thing I wanted to mention is the Level Up class next week, right? Oh, you guys are clapping, but did you do your work? Yes. Are you home doing all of your things that I gave you for the financials? Yes. You setting all your targets? Do your target assignments, and then once you did the assignment, start doing the work that moves you towards the target. Because I'm going to look at your stuff when you bring it in. I'm just giving you another warning. You're going to show me your work when you show up. All right. I just wanted to remind you. I'll remind you again tomorrow, etc. Because some of you are sitting back going, yeah, we got until the 19th. Why would you pay $500, come to a class, and then wait to do anything? Why are you procrastinating? Make the time to do the work to get to where you want to go in life. Okay, it doesn't happen by accident. You're not just going to be like, wake up and go, oh, look, I'm here. I wonder how that happened. No, instead you wake up and like, oh my gosh, I'm here. How did that happen? How did I end up here? This isn't where I wanted to be. Well, everything you did brought you there. Don't blame everybody. Unless you're like 12 and something just happened to you horrible, if you're an adult, you've had enough time to adjust to whatever horrible happened to you. And start making things right happen in the right direction. All right. Group therapy is over. Okay, next. Let's get to today's Torah portion, which is Yitro. All right, Yitro. All right, so we are in Exodus chapter 18. We're going to get to the end of chapter 20. By the way, that's Exodus 18, Elder, not Leviticus. Okay, that's an inside joke. All right, Exodus 18. Let's see what kind of notes I have for you today. We're going to start all the way in verse 1. Okay, so Exodus 18, and I put this in the wrong order here. Okay, here we go. And we'll begin in verse 1. Let me get my phone out of the way, get these keys out of the way. All right. 18:1. And Yitro, the priest of Midian, Moshe's father-in-law, heard all that Elohim had done for Moshe and for Israel, his people, that Yahweh had brought Israel out of Mitzrayim. So Yitro is a priest of Midian. I know a lot of people try to figure out where does he fit into all of this. He's a priest of Midian, okay? Now, he has other names he's sometimes referred to in Scripture, and we're not going to get into all of that, but he is Moshe's father-in-law. And we're going to see that he's going to come to believe in Yahweh, but not necessarily the way that you think. So in verses 5 and 6, it says that he brings Moses' sons and his wife to him. Okay, so Moshe's father-in-law came with his sons and his wife to Moshe. He brought them to Moshe in the wilderness, where they encamped by the mountain of Elohim. Okay, and he said to Moshe, I, your father-in-law Yitro, I'm coming to you with your wife and your 2 sons. Now, so they were not with him during a lot of the trauma. Okay? They now brought to him at Sinai. We get to verse 11. Okay? Let's see. Actually, we'll say in verse 8, Moshe tells his father-in-law all that Yahweh had done to Pharaoh and to the Mitzrites for Israel's sake. Not verse 9, Yitro rejoices for all the good which Yahweh had done for Israel. And Yitro says in verse 10, blessed be Yahweh who has delivered you out of the hand of the Mitzrites. In verse 11, he says, now I know that Yahweh is greater than all the mighty ones, indeed, in the matter in which they acted proudly above them. Okay, so let's understand, he's a priest. He's not a priest of Yahweh. He's a priest. And the idea of there being gods is not foreign to him. He believes in one, at least, or more. And so he's not surprised that Moses' God did some things. And so he believes that Moses' God is at least one of the gods because he did some things, and he's saying he believed. He also believed that he showed himself to be more powerful than all of the Mitzrayite gods. Okay, because of that whole line there, he says that they were greater than the mighty ones of the Mitzrites. He says in which they, where's the verse 11? Okay, in the matter in which they acted proudly above them. So the Mitzrayite gods claimed to be something, but Yahweh showed himself to be above them. Okay? They were the ones acting proudly, so to speak, thinking that they were something, but Yahweh showed them to be nothing. So he's impressed. That doesn't mean he all of a sudden converted to believe that Yahweh is the Elohim. Okay? But he recognizes that this was the work of an Elohim. He thinks other things are the work of an Elohim. He doesn't really understand, doesn't really know. So let's not confuse and think that somehow he got converted here to believe in the one true Elohim. However, he believed that Moses had an experience with a God, and that God did things to Egypt, to Mitzrayim. All right. So in verse 13 through 24, we see that Moses is going to sit to hear the needs of and the petitions of the people, that they came to seek Elohim, though. It says that when they came, they were coming to seek Elohim, but they would come and ask Moshe. Yitro sees how overwhelmed Moses is and advises him to find men to share the load, and Moshe listens. So in verse 18, we see Moses' role in this. He says, both you and these people with you shall certainly wear yourselves out, for the matter is too heavy for you. You're not able to do it yourself. So listen to my voice. Let me counsel you, and Elohim be with you. Stand before Elohim for the people, and you shall bring the matters to Elohim. That's Moses' role. He's in the middle. He speaks for Yahweh, and he speaks for the people. Okay, when he's talking to Yahweh, he's speaking for the people. When he's talking to the people, he's speaking for Yahweh. He says, and you shall enlighten them concerning the laws and the Torah and show them the way in which they should walk and the work that they should do. Wait a minute, elder. It says that we can tell them the work that they should do. It says it right there. So verse 20, he says, this is the role of the anointed appointed. He says, you're going to, as the anointed appointed, enlighten them concerning the Torah and the expectations from above and the relationship from above and the role that we have in relationship to him. Because the next chapter, we're going to get the actual wording of the covenant itself. The simplicity and the power of Exodus 19, verses 5 and 6. Okay? So we're not there yet. So in chapter 18, so we're still looking at this. Then in 21 and 22, he said, but you yourself seek out from all the people able men who fear Elohim, men of truth, hating unfair gain, and place these over to be rulers of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. And they shall rightly rule the people at all times, and it shall be that they bring every matter, every really difficult or great matter to you, but they themselves shall rightly rule over small matter. So to make it lighter for yourself, for they shall bear with you. So remember, this is when the people are seeking Elohim, but they're going to Moses. So every time we've seen this, like this was a big question when we saw with, in the patriarchs and the matriarchs, and we had the problem with the twins kind of playing around. And so Mama said, something's going on. I need to go ask God. I need to ask Elohim. Well, where did she go? Did she go talk to him directly, or did she go to one who was representing him? She went probably to Shem or somebody who was a Melchizedekian at the time, okay? Because she's got the twins kind of roiling around in her. So Rebecca's not going to, you know what I'm saying? So who's she going to ask? Who's she going to ask? So that's the whole thing here too. Moses is in this middle role. Now notice also that it doesn't say, because it's important to see what it does say. What it doesn't say is in verse 21, but you yourselves seek out all the men that step up and say they should be in charge and they should lead things because they believe they're qualified. See, Moses got to pick them. The anointed appointed anoints and appoints. No self-anointing, no self-appointing. Because I got a lot of people out there think they should be in positions they're not. And maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. But guess what? You don't get to decide that. Somebody in the position above you has to recognize that and decide that. And by the way, let's look at the vertical here. I'm sure these men all thought, well, come on, Moses, we could help you. But it took someone that Moses was vertically under to a certain degree, a father-in-law, but a father-in-law is still a vertical thing in a family, to give him instruction and said, I'm older than you. I've got more experience. Let me give you some guidance. Because of that relationship of father-in-law. And so that was still in that way. So that was verse 21 and 22. So we also can see where it talks about these matters, that this is the matters that go to what we would call the elders. The elders are handling the same stuff Moses has, but the stuff that they're trained for, that are simple enough, that are sort of black and white and straightforward and not complex, where there may be some subtleties in the situation or in the law that need a higher discernment, understanding, etc., responsibility that the anointed person has. And that's where Deuteronomy 17 comes in. So let's understand that this here, happening at Mount Sinai, is the precursor to Deuteronomy 17. So Deuteronomy 17, it says, beginning in verse 8, when any matter arises which is too hard for you to judge, between blood and blood, plea and plea, stroke and stroke, matters of strife within your gates, then you shall rise up and go to the place which Yahweh your Elohim chooses, and you shall come to the priests, the Levites, and to the judge who is in those days, and shall inquire. In other words, whoever's in charge, like appropriately in charge. He says, and they shall declare to you the word of right ruling, and you shall do according to the word which they declare to you from that place which Yahweh chooses. And you shall guard to do according to all that they instruct you. Do according to the Torah in which they teach you, according to the right ruling which they say to you. You do not turn to the right or to the left from the word which they declare to you. And the man who acts arrogantly is to not listen to the priest who stands to serve there before Yahweh your Elohim, and to the judge. In other words, again, the person anointed to be in that position, that man shall die. So shall you purge the evil from Israel. And let all the people hear and fear, and let nobody do, let them no longer do arrogantly. So, you have what's happening at Sinai. Yitro gives Moses guidance to set up a leadership structure, a support team to what he's doing. They're still under him. And then We see in Deuteronomy 17 how that's still being played out and how it's to be applied when the actual official nation structure and judicial system, etc., the right ruling system comes into place. And then you guys wonder why we get so disappointed and frustrated with you. When you come to us, Deuteronomy 17 is why you come to us. You come to us because you're having a problem, you don't know what to do. Let's put this in very simple layman's terms. You are in a situation and you don't know what to do. That's what it says here in Deuteronomy 17. If you knew what to do, you would have done it. If there was somebody simple and local and you know, you could ask your cousin, your brother, your sister, your father, whatever, that would have been fine. But no, this is something you needed a higher authority to figure out. Then you must go there. I'm not saying all of you to just go to a local church and go to the local church person because there's a local church person. I'm saying is you need to find someone that's actually anointed with the position. Not seminary trained necessarily, not someone with a certificate and letters behind their name, but someone who actually is anointed. Well, how do I know what that is? Well, you have to interact with them to find out. What does an anointed person sound like? How do they act? What do they understand? How do they teach? You might need to counsel to see if they have an anointing in the counseling. I don't know how many more testimonies you need to hear, including Elder today talking about how I'll walk in the room because, by the way, if you're on the phone with him, you might hear me. And it's not because he's like going like this, come here, Rabbi, I need help. And I just walk in and he just moves over. Because whatever's going on, I have something that pops in my head that needs to handle it or how to say something, whatever it is, and I'll just go in. And thankfully, our relationship is such that he never gets offended and never is insulted that I jump in because it's not usurping anything. It's actually, like he said, makes it quicker, saves time, and because I'm given that insight at that moment. Now, sometimes I don't go in because I don't like you and I don't want to. No. Sometimes, some of you are going to think, well, Rabbi doesn't come in when I'm on the phone. Look, he doesn't always have the door open, and I don't always feel like he needs any help with it. And by the way, it's not because he's handling it poorly. I'm just getting some sort of an insight he hasn't gotten yet. Okay? And so often he'll say to me, well, where'd you get that? How did you go from what I heard to that? And my answer is always the same. I have no idea. It's the way he pieces the puzzle in my head. All right? But the point is, we have this expectation, though, that if you're going to come to us, and we're going to own, by the way, Deuteronomy 17 isn't just saying, these guys have all this power, you just do whatever they say. No, it's saying they have all this tremendous responsibility that if you do what they say, it's going to be on them. Because there's verses that say, if you're the one doing the instructing, you have potentially the double judgment. So they have that curse being on them potentially. So we take it very seriously to give you counsel, and we believe very strongly that when we do, it's right counsel, and then we're baffled when you refuse to do it. And then you come and show us just how smart your way has been, because now you're in a bigger hole than you were before, and now you're all upset, and we're like, but he will often say this to you, did you do what we told you last time? Did you? And if the answer is no, he's like, well, go back and do that. Why are you coming here when you haven't done what we told you last time? How badly do you really want the answer? Oh, but I want the answer I want that's going to do it the way I want. No, you're going to get the answer that's the answer. It may be what you want, it may not be what you want. It's still going to be the answer. And the answer is the answer. The truth is the truth. The right ruling is the right ruling. Period. But I want you to see Deuteronomy 17, which is a very important chapter, is rooted in and based on what happens right here with Moses and the elders that he puts in place and Yitro. This is where it starts being formulated into a structure. And that structure is then more clearly defined by the time we get to Deuteronomy 17. So I just want to make sure we're getting that. All right, then we get to verse 23. We're back in chapter 18 of Exodus. He says, if you do this word and Elohim shall command you, then you shall be able to stand, and all the people also go to their place in peace. So Moses, if you do what I'm telling you, you'll be able to handle the workload, and the people will be able to go to their place peacefully, with shalom, with peace. Most of you do not call us when you're in a state of peace. You're calling us because you've lost your peace. Your peace has been disturbed, or it's disappeared, or something. Not the occasional, yes, we get the occasional praise reports where things are great. But I'm just saying is most of the time people are calling us because they don't have peace right that moment. They're stressed, they're upset, they're disturbed, they're angry, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're whatever. There's no peace. So this structure is designed for you to have peace. That was the intention of this, is to give you peace. All right. Then we go to verse 26. So we're still in chapter 18. And they rightly ruled the people at all times. The hard matters they brought to Moshe, but they rightly ruled every small matter themselves. So not all matters needed to be handled by Moshe. So some of you call up saying you need me when you don't need me. Oh, but then the elder gets on the phone. Oh, I want to talk to Rabbi. Then you get on the phone with me, and I'm like, why did you need to talk to me? And half the time I send you back because it's really something that he usually handles, especially with you that are struggling with figuring out how to move here. So then you want to talk to me, and I'm going to send you back to him anyway because he generally handles that, right? But remember, it says that Moses, or the person who's at the top of that chain, I'm not saying I'm Moses, but whoever's at that higher spot, doesn't have to handle everything. You should let the people in between handle what they can. Now, if for whatever reason you don't get satisfaction and want to go up higher on the chain, that's fine. You can go up higher. But by the way, I've got two tremendous support guys in Rabbi Tom and in Elder Billy, and both of them almost perfectly know when to push people up the chain. Okay? They do not try to handle things that they shouldn't. So if they tell you, hey, share with me, maybe I can help you, I promise you, if they feel like they're not the right person, they will send you to me. Okay? They will do that. But let them try if they feel like they may be able to do it, because that will take that much more off of my plate. All right? And that would be scripturally what we just are reading here in chapter 18. All right, then we get to chapter 19, and we get some excitement going on here because we're now going to get to this is the covenant. Now, for all you Christians out there, all you Jews out there, anybody out there that doesn't understand what covenant is, I don't care, Messianic, whatever you are, there is no different covenant in like Matthew to Revelation. There's a renewing of a covenant, but there's a covenant, and the covenant is simple. What's a covenant? I have a whole teaching, 55 parts, called Are You Covenanted? You might want to listen to that. It's probably one of the most important teachings you'll ever listen to. What's a covenant? It's a special relationship by agreement between people or between us and our Creator. In this case, we're talking about the covenant with our Creator. And in it are obligations. And it's a very simple covenant. And this is a relationship that He wants with us that does not change after Messiah shows up, dies, and is resurrected. The Creator didn't decide that He wants a different relationship. He wants a very simple relationship with us. It's right here in chapter 19. He says here, verse 3, Moses went up to see Elohim and called to him from the mountain. Moses went up to Elohim and Yahweh called him from the mountain, saying, this is what you are to say to the house of Jacob and declare to the children of Israel. You have experienced me. You have seen what I did to the Mitzrites, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. In other words, you know who you're dealing with. You know what I'm capable of. I rescued you and delivered you out of slavery, and I brought you out in miraculous ways to this place. You know who I am. Not everything, but you know who you're dealing with. So I'm going to make you an offer. He says, I'm going to make you an offer. He says, if you would diligently, now this is the relationship He wants with us, and it's never changed. If you diligently obey my voice and shall guard my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession above all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a reign of priests and a set-apart nation. These are the words which you speak to the children of Israel. That's it. It's that simple. But it's so complex because it encompasses anything He would ever say. If you would diligently obey whatever comes out of my mouth. Now notice this is a contract that the details are not given till after they say yes. Because the contract is not based on the details. It's based on the relationship. Us knowing who he is. We are saying yes because of who he is, not yes because of what he said. Look, that's so simple, but you need to hear it again. The covenant is a relationship because of who he is, not because of what he says and offered, etc. He says, look, I will give you everything if you will just trust me and obey. Because really the word trust isn't in it, but that's implied. Why would you obey if you didn't trust him? And didn't believe he would give you all the things that would put you up as a treasured possession above all the peoples? Why would you do these things? But he also said, you've seen what I've done, which means you know I can deliver. All the earth is mine. If all the earth is mine, what can't I give you? What can't I do? I destroyed the biggest nation you're aware of. I laid waste to that land in miraculous and incredibly horrific ways. Just the signs and the wonders. Then I brought you through the sea. And I fed you with manna. And I gave you quail. And I made the water sweet. I brought water out of the rock. I mean, I've done all these things. So I want you to agree to a relationship going forward where out of that knowing who I am, you agree to trust everything I tell you to do, even before I've said it. Because you know why he did that? Why do you think he did that? Because I think he knew if you knew all the details, you'd argue. Well, why do I need to do that? Well, who cares? Does it really matter what I eat? Does it really matter what day I keep? Does it really matter, how I do this or how I do that? Because you and I don't even know, like it says, a man doesn't even know where to put his own feet. The way that seems right to a man leads to death. He knows that we don't know. Problem is, we don't know that we don't know. He knows, but we don't. We think we're smart. He knows we're dumb as dirt. It's that we're made out of dirt. And sometimes we're not a whole lot smarter than dirt. So he needed us to agree because of the relationship, not agree because of the details. Now, sadly, once we get past Yeshua's resurrection, men come into all of this and undermine the entire plan. And they do that by saying things like the law was done away with, that we're no longer under that covenant. None of that is true. Oh, but that's the new, when you get to Matthew, it says new covenant. King James stuck that page in there, or some publisher. There's no page that says new covenant, an Old Testament and New Testament. That's a publisher's put that in there, okay? It's just a continuation of the story and the writers from the beginning. Moses writes the beginning stuff, and then we get prophets writing things, and then we get Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and it keeps going forward. And it's all about the same story. The story starts here at Sinai, covenanting with the people. Then we're going to see them screw it up through history, end up getting scattered. Then Messiah comes to start the regathering and the restoring of the covenant, the renewing of the covenant. What covenant? This covenant. The Creator still wants a relationship with people that will trust everything that comes out of his mouth. Period. Not argue with it. Not do violence to it, right? Ezekiel 22, he says, the priests have done violence to my word. Well, what's more violent than doing away with it? Well, you don't have to keep those things anymore. That was for the Jews. Really? It's all of Israel here, by the way, not just the Jews. There are only there's 70,000 of them here. Right? When you do the census, there's about 70,000 of them here. Out of 2 or 3 million people, there's 70,000 men over the age of 20 here. So who are the rest of them? They're not all Jews. They're Israelites. They're the mixed multitude that are now Israel. So let's keep that in mind. Because people like to argue. It's funny, though, almost all of them still keep what they think of the 10 Commandments. At least they keep 9 of them. Somehow they have a real problem with the 4th one. Well, it's on Sunday now. Why? Well, because that's when he was resurrected. No, he wasn't. But that's not why it's on Sunday now. It's on Sunday now because the Catholic Church did that, because they were anti-Jewish. They were anti-Semitic. So the Catholic Church did that to you. And all of you Protestants, you should just immediately stop doing Sunday, go back to Saturday, and protest against the church. The Catholic Church that gave you Sunday. You are miserable Protestants. I mean, you're terrible at protesting. Oh, we're split from the big church. No, you didn't. You split over a few things you didn't like. You're still sitting there suckling at the breast of the big mother church, doing what she said. That's why you do Christmas and Easter and Sunday and all the things she gave you. They're not in here. But hey, you guys are protesting. Good job. All right, good job protesting. Failures is what you are. All right. I'm not pulling any punches, because you're going to stroke around going how better you are than the Catholics, or how better you are than the Methodists, or how better you are than this one, and each one's better than... Really? Really? You guys are just in a different set of clothing than your Catholic parents, basically. You're the mother church that gave you what you got. Otherwise, most of the nonsense you're doing came from them. And it was all done out of a complete and absolute roaring anti-Semitism. That's where the phrase Judaizing came from. What was Judaizing? In other words, worshiping Messiah in the way a Jew would do it. I'm sorry, but the Messiah was Jewish. All the original disciples were Jewish. All the first century believers up to a point were Jewish. And so obviously they didn't know anything. You guys who came out of paganism and then came to believe Messiah, obviously knew a whole lot more about what was supposed to happen, because after all, you've never been covenanted, and they've been covenanted for several thousand years before you showed up. They may know a little bit about this. So here they are. So Moses comes to the people, and he called the elders together in verse 7 and set before them the words that Yahweh had said. See, this is even easier than Grace in your 6 lines. He only had like 2 sentences. You know, he was saying how he had to memorize 6 lines for the Purim play. Moses had like 1.5 verses. He said, look, basically, if you would agree to do everything he says, he's going to give you everything. Anything and beyond what you could imagine. And so all the people answered together and said, all that Yahweh has spoken, we shall do. So Moses brought back the words of the people to Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Moshe and said, see, I'm going to come to you in a thick. So he said, okay, they agreed. This is how we're going to play this out. They agreed. Right? They agreed. All right, so pre-covenant, he said, you've seen what I did. So this is back to verse 4. Just going to summarize this again. So verse 4 is the pre-covenant. You have seen what I did. So we are to make our decision to covenant based on our personal experience with him. Not your experience in any denominational sort of way, just your experience with him, period. That you believe he exists. Whether you understand what he expects or not, everything else is not relevant at this point. They didn't understand it fully either. But you believe he is. That's the pre-covenant thing. You have seen, not just what you've read in the book, you've seen in your own life. You know he is. Then you know that if he is, that you should trust him and do what he says. Because he just might know what's right and what's wrong and what's best for you. Do you know, every one of you that's a parent, or if you ever become a parent, you'll have this experience where you would love your children to trust you that you might know what's best for them. That's the same modeling that we get from the Father of all things. He knows, we think we know, but he does know what is best for his children. And he begs and pleads, just like we do with our children, please trust me and listen to me. I can save you a lot of grief, a lot of pain if you would just listen to me. Of course, a lot of you are thinking, yeah, but I didn't know what I was doing either. Well, that's true. We all have a limited ability to do these things right because we weren't taught right. He is perfect. He does it right. We can trust him. Okay? He's the only being, him and Yeshua are the only beings that didn't come from a dysfunctional family. Okay? That's only two. Only two didn't come. Yeshua had the perfect father, and the father was perfect. No dysfunctional family. Of course, then they gave birth to the rest of us who were terribly dysfunctional. They created us and brought us into the mix. Okay, so verses 5 through 7 again is the covenant offer. Verse 8 is the acceptance. Okay? Now, listen, look at verse 9. In verse 9, Yahweh says to Moses, "See, I am coming to you in a thick cloud so that the people hear when I speak with you and believe you forever." So part of this was to endorse the relationship with the voice. Now remember, it's interesting. He says, if they would diligently obey my voice. Well, they're only going to hear a little bit of what his words are. Then they're going to say, that's too much. We don't want to hear anymore. And that's the last they're going to hear from him, like forever. So what was he talking about when it comes to his voice? He speaks through the prophets. He speaks through Moshe. He speaks through who he speaks through. We usually call them anointed, appointed, like in the fivefold that Paul talks about in Ephesians 4:11. Those people, if they are actually working on behalf of the Almighty, not because they claim they are, but because he claims they are, okay, they may be looked at as his voice. And he says, you need to obey my voice. Now, of course, that doesn't mean every guy who stands up in front of a microphone and says, I'm his voice, you need to listen to me. I said, no. You need to listen to his words coming out of that mouth, and you need to know which is which. So if you've not read this, you don't know what his words are. So some people say, well, I need to study more. No, you don't. You need to read more. Studying more is only going to confuse you and get you to the same place you were before where you didn't know what to do. Study what a teaching is giving you. Study your teacher. Let your teacher teach you. When you study a subject in school, the teacher helps you to understand. But you need to know the subject matter. You need to read it. So if I mention Deuteronomy 17 and you go, what? You need to read it more so you know what Deuteronomy 17 is in Ephesians 4:11. And any other place that I quote, if you've read it enough, you'll know what I'm talking about. So you put the information in, and guess what the Ruach does, the Spirit does? It stirs to remembrance what you've put in. Well, you know, I just need more time to study. Well, that's good. Are you listening to teachings to study, or are you going to sit there and teach yourself with the book and think you know what you're doing? Which one are you doing? I'm sorry, did I offend you? I'll offend you stronger. You're not qualified to do that. Oh, who does this guy think he is? Nobody. I don't think I'm anybody. He is trying to talk to you. I'm just opening my mouth. What makes you think you're qualified to study unaided and figure out this book? I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but this book was never meant to be understood completely without help. Yes, there are some very simple things that it says that you can understand without help. No doubt about it. But to understand the subtleties, nuances, and the core, full understanding of this, you need help. He designed it that way. He didn't bring them to Sinai and give them all a download. He said, you will listen to Moses, and then when Moses, at the end of Deuteronomy, he says, and I'm going to raise up a prophet like Moses, you're going to listen to that guy. And the next one after that, and the next one after that, all the way to Yeshua. And there will always be those who you're supposed to listen to who speak on the behalf of the Almighty. Your problem is you got to figure out who those guys are. That's what Paul tells you in Ephesians. That whole fivefold ministry thing. And no, it's not a vertical structure, the apostle and then the this and the that, because that's something the church invented. They're just roles that different roles that either one person or multiple people can have that you need to do the rest of Ephesians 4, where it says, so that we can all come to the fullness of the completeness of the stature of Messiah. And no longer be blown around by every little wind of doctrine and every other thing that's going on, but we would be strong and solid in our conforming to and coming into the fullness of what is Messiah. And so here he's saying, look, I'm starting this new thing with you guys. I'm going to do it in a way that cannot be argued with. I'm going to speak to you in front of them, and they're going to hear me speak. so that they believe you. This is important. Look, we had a moment like this with Moses, or we will with Moses and Aaron and his sister, right? We're going to have this moment where they're like, oh, well, who are you? You know, we help do all these things. And then Yahweh got in both of their faces and said, excuse me, I don't talk to you face to face like I do him. He's the one I put in that position, not you. Yes, you're there to support him, and I gave you roles to play, but don't usurp that role. Don't overstep your role. And so that's a warning to everybody. Like, if you're dealing with someone who might be anointed, you better be careful what you say and do, because if you're usurping and Yahweh put that person there, that could get you in some trouble. I'm not saying you should ever be worried about a preacher saying, I'm anointed, so you better be careful. I'm saying is you need to figure out who is and be careful. Because I'm sure there's people out there throughout the centuries that I've heard many times, and every cult has some guy saying, I'm this, this, and this, and you need to be whatever. I'm not saying any of that. That's for you to figure out what role I have or not. But based on what you figure out, you need to walk in it correctly. Where are we now? Let's see. So verse 9, this is so that the people hear when I speak with you and believe you forever. It didn't say just believe me. He said believe you. So this stuff that we now get to read is still part of that forever. Moses wrote it down so we could all have it. And yes, we believe Moses because we know what Yahweh did with him. When has there been a God that's spoken to a whole nation of people where they heard his voice, they heard him speak? When? It's the only time it's ever happened. So we get to, let's see. I'm running out of time. Let's deal with some of the commandments real quickly. Chapter 20. All right? So first of all, for all the Christians out there, I'm going to mess with your 10 commandment order a little bit. Okay? The Jewish community sees it differently than you do. I think that they're right. Not because they're Jewish, just because I think they're right. So the first commandment is, verse 2, I am Yahweh your Elohim who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of slavery. That is the first commandment. Okay? You shall have no other mighty ones against my face, and you do not make an idol. That's the second commandment. It's not like you should not have any other mighty one. It's the second commandment, and idolatry is it's the first commandment, and the second one is idolatry. The first one is I am Yahweh. That's actually a commandment. You need to know I am the one who brought you out of Egypt. Commandment 2, don't you have anybody else in front of my face, and don't make an idol thinking it's me. All right? Commandment 3, now that you know who I am, and now that you're claiming to be mine, don't embarrass me and use my name in a way that makes it mean nothing. So this commandment 3 is not about how you pronounce the name or whether you use the right name and all that other nonsense. Every place you see, other than in the commandments here, but even in the commandments here actually, every place you see the thing about making his name nothing, especially like in Leviticus 17 through 20, those chapters, he'll say, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that, and don't make my name mean nothing. In other words, if you don't do the things I said to do, and you do the things I said don't do, you'd be making my name of no value. Third commandment, don't claim you're mine and embarrass me. That's a better way to word it, I think. Don't claim to be mine and then do dumb stuff you know you should not be doing. I had to be careful there, that was close. Okay, don't do dumb stuff. Claiming you're mine. Fourth commandment. Fourth commandment has always been the seventh day Sabbath. It was never moved. It was created at creation time. Okay, so it can't be moved. It's a created space of time. Okay, it's a created window of time. Well, how do we know that we're doing the right day and everything? Because Messiah kept it correctly. Can we agree? I've said this many times. I'll say it again in this teaching. If Messiah kept it correctly, and he kept it with the Jewish community, so he never corrected them, so they kept it correctly, then all we need to do is see in the last 2,000 years if anybody moved it. And nobody has. It's been kept the same for the last 2,000 years and before, but certainly for the last 2,000 years. So no, we don't need to go into all the crazy derivations on Sabbath keeping. Well, I don't know. Is it sunup to sunup or sundown? Listen, Yeshua did it with the Jewish community. They've never changed it. It's sundown to sundown. It's Friday night sundown to Saturday night sundown. That's the way it's always been. Oh, I don't know. Don't give me all of it. You're so smart now. You've been studying this for 5 minutes and I'm wrong. Okay? Oh, you think I'm all cocky. No. I just think you're being cocky because you're thinking you know so much when you don't know anything. And I'm not trying to be insulting. You came out of a church where you learned one verse maybe a week and heard a sermon with mostly stories and jokes, and you don't know anything, okay? I'm not trying to be insulting, but that's what you got. And now all of a sudden you've been reading your Bible and you went to all these fringe websites and you think you know all the latest new doctrinal understanding crack. And you're all addicted to that crack. And you're all smoking that crack. Okay? And you don't know what you're doing and you don't know what you're talking about. But you think everybody else is stupid. See, there's a Gnostic part of you that got ignited. Okay, the Gnostic idea of loving information, loving knowledge, especially secret, esoteric knowledge. There's a little Gnosticism in you that got awakened. I know something they don't know. Well, good for you. But it's probably wrong, so not so good for you. But you just think it's good. And then you go to conferences where all the crack dealers are sitting in the conference room selling their latest videotapes and books, on all their latest understanding crack. And you're all excited to buy it. The Sabbath is Saturday. The Jewish community has defended, died for, lived and died for that day. That's the that's the Sabbath day. I don't care what John Hagee and the rest of them out there try to argue that now Sunday is the Sabbath. I watched him many years ago do some Ten Commandment thing. I happened to be changing channels. He was talking about the Ten Commandments and he was on like 3. I said, oh, this is going to be good. Let's see what he did to the 4. And he actually made an argument that Christians are all wrong because they don't keep Sunday all day because the Sabbath is a whole day. But it's the wrong day. I give him kudos for at least saying it should be all day and picking on them for just showing up at church for 5 minutes and they go home and do whatever they want. But it's the wrong day. It's the day the Catholic Church gave you. Not a scriptural day. The Messiah never kept Sunday. Oh, but he was resurrected. Show me anywhere in Scripture that anybody kept Sunday. Oh, well, in Acts, Paul took up a collection on Sunday. Do you know why Paul took up the collection on Sunday? Because he couldn't do it on Saturday. Because it was the Sabbath. Because they didn't do business on Shabbat. And he was taking up a collection of all kinds of stuff to bring to Jerusalem. He wasn't doing it because they were doing Sunday church. He couldn't do it on Saturday. Nobody kept Sunday. No, not once in Scripture anywhere. Oh, but he was resurrected. No, he wasn't resurrected on Sunday. They showed up on Sunday morning and he was already gone. And the angel didn't say, you missed him by 5 minutes. Too bad on you. Oh, too bad. He was just here. You just missed him. I'm sorry. Okay? You guys should have got up earlier. 5 minutes. You just missed him. That's not what happened. He was 3 days, 3 nights in the grave. He's the Lord of the Sabbath. Guess what day he rose on? The Sabbath. Guess what time he rose? 3 o'clock or so in the afternoon, which is when he died, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Give or take, whatever. They didn't have clocks and watches, but you understand? Okay? It was the 9th hour. It's 3 in the afternoon. Okay, so then that's where you understand. 3 days, 3 nights, so he had to rise around 3 in the afternoon. They show up Sunday morning, bright and early. He's gone. So we have to go back to the nearest 3 in the afternoon and figure out when that was. Would have been Saturday. Oh, no, but he died on Good Friday and rose on Sunday. Then you can't count to 3. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3. Okay, Friday night, all of Saturday, and first thing Sunday morning is not 3 days and 3 nights. It's one day and 2 nights or whatever. I don't know what that is. All right? It's not 3 days and 3 nights. And so you don't have what you need for that. So stop justifying, because it's not convenient to make the change, that you're right doing this on Sunday. All of you who are listening, you want to do the right thing, go to your churches and get in their faces about how they ended up on Sunday. I'm going to be so popular. like I was already, right? As a matter of fact, how many of you figured that out, went to your pastors and said, how come we're doing this on Sunday? A couple of you, right? Did that go well? No. Look, I want everybody to do this right. All the Sunday guys should move to Saturday. That would be a good start. There's a bunch of other things they need to fix too, like get the pork chop and the shrimp out of their mouth. But other than that, we could at least start with getting them on the right day. We got to start with something. Okay? Then we can get rid of those 2 lousy pagan holy days and embrace the full 5 amazing Yahweh, ordained holy days. Oh, I like my Christmas and my Easter. Well, I can replace it with 5 better ones. Okay? Unleavened bread, Shavuot, trumpets, atonement, and Sukkot. I give you 5 solid better ones. Okay? Yes, I know there's more things attached, etc., but it's those 5 periods, those things there. Well, some of you have 3 because you do Halloween too. I'm sorry, your church calls it a fall festival. Liars. Okay? It's Halloween. They just want to justify it somehow. You want to do a fall festival? It's called Sukkot. That's your fall festival. Well, we want to celebrate the resurrection. Well, that's called wave sheaf, and that's done during Passover and unleavened bread. It's not called Easter, Ishtar. We're worshiping Ishtar? Well, but in the King James it says Easter. No, in the King James, in the Greek, it actually says Pascha, which would have been Passover in the book of Acts, not Easter. Horrible translation. Even the Greek had it right. As Pascha, for Pesach, for Passover. If only I could get excited about this stuff. We're running out of time. You guys are waiting for that moment. Well, I would, but Grayson's not letting me, so. All right. Chapter 20, and in verse 18. I only have time for a little of this. I'm just going to give you a little bit more. Okay, all the people saw the thunders and the lightning flashes and the sound of the ram's horn and the mountain smoking, etc. So the people saw it, they trembled. I want you to listen to the teaching I did called Shavuot from Sinai to the upper room. Okay, so it's from Mount Sinai to the upper room. It connects the dots between what happened here at Sinai to what happened in Acts 2. Okay? They're similar events. By the way, happened on the same day. Acts 2 is happening at Shavuot, so is this. These are Shavuot events. Okay? So they're connected. Okay, Shavuot isn't about the giving of the Spirit. Shavuot is about the giving of the commandments. And then there was also an outpouring of the Spirit in Acts chapter 2. But it was during a Shavuot celebration. And so let's understand that. Okay, so I'm not going to connect those for you here, but you can listen to the teaching called from Shavuot from Sinai to the upper room. Okay, then in verse 19, the people freak out. They panic. They say to Moses, you speak with us and we hear, but let not Elohim speak with us lest we die. So the people are in panic mode and they want Moses to be their buffer. Now, I think part of it was maybe because they really were afraid. Part of it, I think it gave them a level of sort of plausible deniability. Because, hey, Moses said it. How do we know Yahweh really said it? See, when Yahweh said it, they couldn't argue. They heard it. Everybody heard that. But now let Moses, you tell us. Well, then they can always claim that, well, how did we know Moses was telling us the right thing? How did we know to believe him? That might have been part of it. Part of this also was, I want you to picture this moment. If you've not heard this before, especially if you're newer, this, according to legend, we'll call it, okay, was a full sensory experience. They heard the words. They saw the words. They felt the words. They smelled the words. They tasted it. It was overwhelming. Could you imagine this experience there? And you were literally immersed in all of your senses by this message, by the voice. Yeah, you might think you're going to die. I mean, I know years ago, I don't know, some of you are not old enough, we used to have these movie theater things with Sense-A-Round and then Smell-O-Vision or whatever. I mean, we could they try to make things to go with whatever's going on in the movie and have like perfumes go into the air or the seats would move a little bit. But could you imagine you're at Sinai and he uses the metaphors here of the lightnings and the thunders. They could feel the words. Anybody ever get yelled at and it was so loud that you could feel the words? Like physically you could feel the assault of those words? His voice was assaulting them, not in a bad way. I'm saying it was like an experience that was just beyond their understanding, and it scared them. It scared them. Yes, I believe there was a level also of, wow, we really have no excuse now. We just heard the creator of the universe tell us what we need to do. And we don't want to hear anymore. That was enough. 10 was enough. Thank you. Which, by the way, I don't think he intended to stop at 10. They interrupted him. Now, those are the 10 he wrote on the tablets, but they interrupted him. But actually, everything he gave Moses, they wrote on the tablets. He got them on both sides. But the 10 are the ones we only picture. I believe the blueprints of the tabernacle were on the tablets, because it says that Moses was showing it up on the mountain. This is Exodus 25:9. Okay, we're going to get there next week or the week after. I don't know how many chapters we got to get next week. We'll get there. Okay, follow the pattern exactly when building the tabernacle. So they panic and they want Moses as a buffer. So more details of this are covered in Deuteronomy 5. You can go read those yourself, verses 23 to 33. All right, then chapter 20, verse 20 is the last verse I'm going to cover. It says, Moses says to the people, do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you, in order that his fear be before you, so that you do not sin. Okay, so do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you. Anybody think of another verse about that? Deuteronomy 8:2. Okay, you guys hear me use that verse all the time. So here he's telling them in Exodus the same thing he's going to say that Moses is going to remind them of at the end in his final little speech before they cross the Jordan. Hey, he walked you through this wilderness to humble you, to test you, to prove you, to see whether it's in your heart or not to keep the commandments or not, right? Whether it's in your heart to keep his commandments. He says, don't be afraid. Don't fear. He's coming. This is all to prove you, to test you. But also the last part of it says, so that you do not sin. Guess what's coming? The sin teaching. Okay? And we're going to finally understand what that's all about. I'm going to give you a hint. This whole thing really tells you the whole, I won't even have to do the teaching, what I'm about to tell you. But you're going to need proof, so I'm going to have to teach you anyway. Okay, so this relationship that we just got this beautiful picture of, and the covenant that was made in chapter 19. In that relationship, there's expectations. And in those expectations, there's a mark that you're expected to hit in those various areas. When you fall short and miss the mark, it's called sin. That's why it says things like when you sin against your brother. Sin against your brother doesn't mean you did breaking a Yahweh commandment. It means that you broke something in expectation of relationship with your brother. And so you need to fix that. So it has to do with missing the mark, because that's what the Hebrew and the Greek actually are talking about, as to the expectations of a relationship. So he says, I'm saying this to you so that you do not fear, and the fear of Yahweh will be before your eyes, so that you do not breach and miss the mark of the relationship, which you would do if you didn't know the expectation. Because you'd be sitting there going, I just want to make sure that I don't get in trouble with God. Well, then you need to know what he expects. How are you going to not get in trouble if you don't know what he expects? So you have to find out what his expectations are. Remember, look, I do this with you with regular relationships. When you guys come together and you're having a problem in your marriage, or maybe you're dating and you're going to get married, I always tell you that one of the most important things to do is have an expectations discussion. What do you expect of the other person, and what should they expect from you? And what do they expect of you, and what should they expect? You know what I'm saying? You have to have that discussion. That discussion was in 19, right? Where he says, if you will trust me and obey and do everything I say, I will take care of everything else. By the way, it's a one-sided conversation. He didn't ask you to make a counteroffer. That was the offer. You can have everything, just trust me and do what I say. It's going to be, and by the way, trust me and do what I say, because I know the best way to treat each other. I know the best way to treat me. I know what works. Not just because I'm power crazy and I want all this obedience. My way works, your way won't. Of course, you're welcome to try, and we all do. And then it doesn't work, and then we're still stupid, so we keep doing it our way. Because we're stubborn and prideful, and we're not smart enough to just do what he says and just trust him. And I've had people come to me, and I've said, okay, that's great, wonderful, okay, you're suffering. Why don't you just do what I told you to do in the first place? Because what I told you to do, I know came from him. So why wouldn't you just do that? And by the way, doesn't it irritate the you-know-what out of you when you hear all these people get up and say how wonderful the results are when they do listen to me? Why doesn't that drive you crazy? Because you know you're not listening. They are. You're getting lousy results. They're getting great results. Do you get the point? I mean, what does it take to get through to you guys? I mean, it's right there in black and white. I was going to say you can't miss it, but you guys miss it. I don't know how you miss it. It's like, just right over your heads. Taking giant chunks out of the wall behind you, you know. Unbelievable. All right. Questions, comments, thoughts in the last few minutes we got here? We'll try to go to like 10 or 10:30, so we got a few minutes. Was that good? Did that help anybody? All right. I ate my Wheaties today, so I'm all excited. Some of you are too old, not old enough to know that. Okay. All right, Ashley, go ahead. You can get us started.
Thank you for that, Rabbi. I just want to ask you, because I'm going to forget later on, we were talking about boundaries earlier this week. Please tell me boundaries and expectations are not related.
No, they're related. And actually, verse 12 of chapter 19 talks about boundaries. I left that out. Okay?
I'm sorry, I didn't see what you said.
Verse 12 of chapter 19 actually talks about setting boundaries. All right, it says, and you shall make a border for the people all around, saying, take heed to yourselves that you do not go up to the mountain or touch the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall certainly die. In other words, Yahweh did set boundaries in terms of who gets to go where and who gets to meet with him on what level. So boundaries are even being set right here in chapter 19.
Be careful what I ask for.
Yep. And that's actually one of the only verses that I wrote down that I didn't actually mention out loud, but it's right here in my notes. 19:12 boundaries. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Steve.
Okay, let's see, I had a couple of quick things. 18:8, it talked about all the hardship that had come upon them on the way and how Abba had delivered them, but it said for their sake. So for their sake, so sometimes maybe what's for our sake might not be the best way we hoped for. It's kind of like, I guess, a comment. And then secondly, Moshe shared all what Abba had done. So how readily are we willing to share what Abba has done for us? Sometimes some of us won't sing his praise in public, and I think in not doing so, we're not giving the credit where it belongs. And then the last thing real quick was they called him, 19:3 was he called Moses from the mountains. Some of us won't even answer to our responsibility. How are we expecting to hear from him?
Awesome. Well played. All right. Chris.
Okay, so I had a comment on 18:23, but I want to quote what you were talking about in your Sabbath teaching in chapter 16 and verse 19. No, it's not verse 19. It's verse 29. See, because Yahweh has given you the Sabbath, therefore he is giving you bread for 2 days on the sixth day. Let each one stay in his place. Do not let anyone go out of his place on the seventh day. And in that teaching, we're talking about how the word place could be more like your position. And so when people are coming to him, like in chapter 18, verse 14, and when the father-in-law of Moshe saw all that he did for the people, he said, "What is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit by yourself, and all the people stand before you before morning until evening," or from morning till evening? And so I was thinking of it as like he's sitting and the people are standing. And taking that to verse 23, if you do this word and Elohim shall command you, then you shall be able to stand. So back to standing. And all those people also shall go to their place in peace. And so I was thinking that the place could also be the way you're talking about in the teaching, where it's their position, not like physical place.
Yeah, no, I think it certainly could be in both. It could be both in both cases. I think I also mentioned last week when we dealt with this verse in chapter 16, the idea that, when you're dealing with children, sometimes you have to get much more strict and keep it more simple to say, look, since you don't know how to listen, stay in your room all day so you learn not to go out there and do what you shouldn't do. And when you get that handled, then we'll let you out and give you other things you can do. So I think that plays out as well, but also I like the way that you're reminding me, because I don't even remember that. Until you said it, I forgot that they had made that point during the Sabbath teaching, the idea of place also being your status position, like the role that you have. So definitely a good point.
Yeah, because it's the same word. And then I had a question about the whole standing thing with, I guess, mostly verse 23 with the idea of you should be able to stand, because it was talking about in verse there's another verse about, well, I guess in verse 14 too, sitting, and then and then verse 19 also in chapter 18, let me counsel you and Elohim be with you, stand before Elohim for the people. And back in chapter 17, last Torah portion, we had the battle with Amalek, and I know you were talking about how the elders came to support Moshe, and in verse 12, it says, but Moshe's hands were heavy, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Now, I don't know if there's how much of a connection there could be, because it seems like they just did that on their own. Maybe he told them to, but they seem to want to put, I don't know if it's a stretch perhaps to say they put Moshe in his place, but I want to know if that way of reading it could be
all right,
kind of
I think that you're probably have some pretty reasonable connections you're trying to make between sitting and standing, that kind of thing. But I think you're also missing the idea that the word stand can be, and in these various verses, be used somewhat differently at times from one verse to the next. The idea of making a stand, or taking a stand, or standing in judgment, or sitting could be sitting in judgment. So these are phrases that are used in different forms depending on where they are. Okay? So it just depends on the context of the verse, really, what it's being used for. It's not so consistent, like you can just say every time you see stand or sit, it's trying to make this same point.
Yeah, I was just thinking that because they're
those are interesting points that could be being made in some of those places.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. Okay. All right, Janet.
Thank you, Rabbi, for
You're
the
welcome.
Torah study. Rabbi, when you were talking about 19:9, when he was saying that the people hear when I speak, and then when I speak with you, and then they will believe you forever. So I was thinking about your role here in our congregation, and how you've been talking a lot about counseling, and Elder Billy did too. But would you say that whenever we get the results, because we follow your guidance and counseling, that's another way that Yahweh is showing us that we should believe in you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, if you went to someone and they gave you counsel, and their counsel never worked or didn't work on a regular enough basis, then that would probably mean that the person doesn't actually have that proper anointing role, etc. But if you get consistent, messages from that leadership person that is saying it's coming from above, this is what the right ruling is, this is what the book says you should be doing, this is the insight, and it gains and brings the right fruit, then that's what you're looking for as part of I might need to start listening to this person. That might really be an anointed person. But then when you hear other people all tell you about the results. Look, it's really interesting. I've had emotionally challenged people on one side. Some people laughing, but you don't know where I'm going. I've had some emotionally challenged people will go and tell you that I'm the safest person they've ever met, and other people tell me that I'm unsafe and dangerous. I'm the same person with everybody. It's where they're coming from. And so I was very moved when you told me, and I have gone to some counseling sessions with some people. I've done some other things where, as part of what you do, you ask them to say, find a place that's safe. And then when you ask them what that is, and they tell you it's being with me, that's very moving and powerful and humbling for me. But it's also moving from the point of view that I've been accused of being unsafe by lots of people. What I was unsafe was for their nonsense. I'm not a safe place for you to just run rampant with your stupidity and not listen to what needs to be said. Okay? Look, I've been called, as the Torah says, a flesh killer. Okay, your flesh is not safe in his presence, and if I represent him, it's not safe with me either. But if you want to be with him, if you want to be in the above, if you want to kill your flesh and live to him, I'm the safest place you can find. And so that's very powerful, because there's still a bunch of people that have left here that insist that, I didn't feel safe. Well, no, you were not safe because your nonsense wasn't safe. You were actually very safe. You just didn't want to let go of the nonsense. And when people come and they let me step all over that nonsense and free them of all that, and then I lift them up and hold them and not literally necessarily, and help them to realize that they're now safe, but it takes you being willing to go through the process. But everything is scriptural. Dying to self is never described as a fun experience. Okay? But you're told you need to do it. And yet when you're doing it and it hurts and it's miserable and you don't like it because all these things you want to do that you can't do and blah, 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 well, it is what it is, though. And you don't like that, I'm going to cut right through all of that, and that's what Elder will tell you when those phone calls go really quick, because I walk right in, cut right down to the bone of what the problem is in 3 seconds and say, this is what it is, are you ready to deal with it? So let's deal with it if that's what it is. This phone call could take 5 minutes instead of you whining and crying for an hour to beat around the bush because you're trying to avoid what I'm going to do. Okay? And then I'll say, is there anything else? The person's like, no, actually, that was it. That was good. If they were willing to allow that to play out. If they're not going to have their inside, fleshly side of them defend that position. Because the flesh doesn't want to die. Right? The flesh does not want to die. It's like that thing in a horror movie that you kill it and it's still flopping around because it doesn't want to die. And you cut its head off, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't want to die. It comes out you without the head. It doesn't want to die. And it's going to try to convince you that you should keep letting it stay alive. And then it's going to convince you I'm the bad guy trying to kill it. And I'm not trying to kill anything. I'm trying to get you to let it go. You to put that old you to death so that the new you can live. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Rabbi. No, I was just thinking about 2011, when it's talking about the Sabbath, and the last part that says, therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart. And I was thinking, I do get, I feel like there are things that I receive from Yahweh on the Sabbath day that I don't get on any other day. Even like during our service here, I don't know if it was, perhaps you were talking about a little bit about that the last Sabbath, like how people, especially blue, the ones that have blue, can get really emotional when they're singing, right? And so I go in my mind, and I don't know, Abba has given us an imagination, so I actually picture him seeing us from where he is and rejoicing in him and seeing us dancing for him. And I just feel so connected with my father in that way. But I don't get that. I mean, I can listen to music, the praise music on another day, and I don't get that other than the Sabbath.
Because the time is set apart. And if you listen to the set apart teaching, you know that set apart means that it's something that has been separated out for the specific purpose of serving him. So this is set apart time. And so there's something special that he did to that time. One day, maybe we'll have the scientific ability to actually, on a quantum physics level, to figure out that there's actually something different in that time than other time. But if you keep the Sabbath, you know there's something different. You kept Sunday before, you keep Saturday now, you know it's different. You feel that difference when the sun goes down Friday night, you know something is different. Okay? Now, since I haven't had enough fun yet, I want to whack at you some more. Because Janet brought me back to the Sabbath, and I looked at verse 9. It says, 6 days you labor. Anybody not working 6 days? Why aren't you working 6 days? Oh, I know why. Well, I need to be with my family. Really? Your family, if you're the man, needs you to work first. Okay? I got a lot of guys out there spending a lot of time with their family, and the family's like, please go to work. Go make some money. We're fine. You can make time for your family. I'm not telling you to ignore your family, but you need to be the primary thing you were designed to be. Go out and work. I had a person, not in the congregation anymore, used to work in a place where they worked 4 12s. All right? No, excuse me, he worked 3 12s. Okay, so it's only 36 hours. I said, what are you doing with the rest of the week? Oh, my family needs me to. Your family needs you to work another 3 days. What do you mean, my family needs? You're not even putting in 40 hours. Oh, but they're 12-hour days. That's a half a day. If I only did 12 hours, I think I'm on vacation. Tomorrow, right? We start with Zone 2 at 10 a.m. here. Grayson's excited. All right. 10 a.m., and I promise you I will not be finished with then Zone 2, the service, and then the counseling afterwards until at least midnight. Because I already saw the schedule and how many people are planning that I'm going to talk to tomorrow night. So that's over 12 hours just tomorrow. I do that most days. I'm not bragging. That's my obligation. You ask my children. My daughter's here, you could ask her. You can ask my wife. If I give them their attention, do I give them time? Don't ask them if they get enough, because they always want more, but say, do I give them time? Do I give them focused time and attention? Because if you love someone, there's never enough. I get that. But I go and take her out on dates, my daughter. I take my wife out. I take my son out. I spend time with them, or I'll sit and just listen to them. I make that time for them. An hour here, a half hour there. They don't need you all day. They need good, quality, short batches of time. Okay? When you give them all day, they want you to go away. All right? We've already been with you all day. Can we do something else now? Nothing personal. And so, look, one of the worst days in a marriage is when he retires and she's already at home and now they're both home. That's rough for about a month or 2 or 3 or 5 because she's like, go to work, do something, get out of my way. Because they're just not used to you being there, right? So give them time, quality time. But they don't need 7, 8, 12 hours at a time with you. They need a good, solid hour or 2 here and there a couple of times a week. Quality time. And they will be much more excited about having no stress in the house because the bills are getting paid and there's enough money to do everything because you're working. Okay? 6 days you shall labor. Now you can read into it like it says, well, you have 6 days to do your labor. That's true. If you can get it all done in less than 6 days, fine. If you don't have a budget that's working, 6 days you shall labor. Oh, but I need to study more. Okay, use that as an excuse why you can't pay your bills. Because you need more study time. You know what? If you can pay your bills and figure out a way to get your money working for you and do all the things financially that we teach, elder I teach, then you have all the time you want to study. And money will still be coming in from your other income streams because you built it right. Okay, but you got to build it right first. By the way, show me, except for like that one guy, the eunuch that, was found on the road, studying the word and reading Isaiah, where do you see anybody studying anything all day long anywhere in this book? Where? Show me anybody sitting around. Well, when Bartholomew was sitting under the tree. Okay, I get that, okay? One or two people, they're sitting around studying. But is that something you see normally in here with everybody? That's the main thing? I'm not against studying the word. I'm all for you reading this and knowing what's in it. But have your priorities right. Make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do in life. Take care of your duty as a man or as a woman. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do in your role, where do you have time to just be sitting around with your nose in the book? Well, how am I going to know what to do? Listen to a teaching. You have a teacher that tells you what you need to do from the book. I don't give you fluffy teachings. I don't give you waste of time teachings. You want to know how to do anything you're supposed to do? I have a teaching. At this point, after 12 straight years of 50-plus teachings, you got 600 teachings to listen to. All right? Play them in the background while you're doing your 6 days of work. Play them in the car while you're driving to or from work. There's plenty of time. I don't have any time. You know what's funny? I know some really busy people, and somehow if I go up to them and ask them to do something, they still find time to do what I ask them, because busy people get things done. Okay? People that are not busy whine about being busy. Busy people never whine about being busy. If they're really actually busy, they don't whine about it. It's only people that stuff is in the way of what they want to do, so they claim they're busy. Or as a way to avoid doing something they don't want to do, I'm busy. No, you're not busy. If it's important, you make time for it. Elder looks at me like he wants to smack me sometimes because somebody says something and I say yes when I should say no. Because I'm never too busy. And so I say yes, and I find time to do it. Even on Wednesdays and Mondays when I'm not taking appointments, if I hear something going on the phone, I'll say, I'll take it right now. But aren't you doing other things? Yes, but I'll do this now. I will make it work. 6 days you shall labor. I'm belaboring the point. Okay? Look, we all joke. You want to make Elder happy? Tell him you have 3 jobs. Okay? That'll start to make him happy. Some of you think, well, I don't need 3 jobs. Fine. If you have a budget that's working and you pay all your bills and have no financial complaints, do it with 1 job. Do it with no jobs. I don't care. But if you don't have a budget that's working and you have trouble paying your bills, something needs to be fixed. 6 days a week. You got so many hours a day, 168 hours in a week. Put them to work. I asked my 19-year-old, who just came out of working for the fast food industry, and now he works as a HVAC guy. And I said to him, you're closer to this than me. You have friends that are in this in the fast food. How hard would it be? How long would it take me to go out and get a job in fast food right now? He said, same day. Okay? So all of you to tell me you can't find work, really? Or you're just not willing to do it? Oh, but it doesn't pay enough. It's more than 0. Okay? But you could get it same day. I almost feel like I'm going to just have to do that just to show you. And you know what? I'd keep it for a month too and show you. I mean, you think, but you're so busy. Not too busy to make a point that may be worth it to all of you. It's not beneath me to say, do you want a Coke with that? You want fries with that? I don't care. And I'll spend that money on something. I'll buy something for Robinson. Okay. She just walked in. Okay? But I mean, you're not getting any sympathy coming to us, and I think elders beyond giving sympathy at this point. Okay? Some of you are thinking, wow, I almost rather talk to Rabbi. He's ready to snap at all of you at this point. Because you guys don't listen, and you have too much pride and ego and everything else. If your finances are not totally shalom for you, work more. Oh, but shouldn't we work smarter? Then work more and then figure out how to work smart and then work less. But first, work more. And remember, rule number 1, and I gave this in the Level Up class, and it's written on Elder's board in his office, because I wrote it there one day when he's on the phone with somebody. No side businesses. Entrepreneuring is no full-time entrepreneuring without your core income already covered or a boatload of money. A boatload of money isn't $1,000. I mean, like 6+ months of money. I mean, a lot of money. Because I know people, you don't know this, you could work a business, you're lucky to break even the first year. So when I say boatload of money, I mean like a whole year's worth of money. If you don't have that, it's got to be a side hustle, not interfering with your core income generating. And then you do not stop the core until your side, at least for a year, makes the same or more. Because you'll make it 1 month and think, I've got it, and quit, and then it goes and blows up in your face. Because you happen to have 1 good month. That sounds like a lot of work. Well, how do you think these successful people got successful? By sitting on their thumbs? They worked harder than you. Every one of these successful people, when you listen to them, they say, you know why I have what I have? Because I was willing to do what you're not willing to do. I paid the price. And you look at me like, oh. Are you calling me lazy, Rabbi? I don't know. Wear the shoe, see if it fits. Are you working 6 days? Are you working 12 hours at least a day on average or whatever? Are you putting in the time until you don't need to? Oh, by the way, all you wives at home, if you're sitting at home and you don't have a family to raise anymore, I don't know how much cleaning you can do, okay? But you should go out and do something. House doesn't need 8 hours a day of cleaning. If it does, I don't know where you're living, okay? Or you're really bad at it. Because you should be doing something too, and helping the deal out and helping your husband out and being productive. Where is it written that says that the man needs to work so the wife can sit home and do nothing all day? Is that anywhere in this book? When the men were out dealing with their craft, whether it was like carpentry or fishing or whatever, the women were doing the crops and all that. There was stuff going on, making clothing or something. They were working. You ever read Proverbs 31, woman? She's making garments and she's buying land and she's a busy woman. She's productive. But yet you guys just sit here and whine and complain about your finances. 6 days you shall labor. And then you get that day to just go, and be so excited about Shabbat. Amen? All right, I'll get off my soapbox. All right, Grayson.
I had a comment for chapter 19, verse 19 and 20.
Okay.
And when a voice of the shofar sounded long and became very strong, Moshe spoke, and Elohim answered him by voice. And Yahweh came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain. And Yahweh called Moshe to the top of the mountain, and Moshe went up. And so what really stood out to me is that it was Moshe being called by the voice of Yahweh to go and have a conversation and receive instruction from the voice. And Moses has to climb up a mountain in order to be able to receive what Yahweh had waiting for him. And so when I think about how that applies to my life, I view it as we have you who's serving as the voice of Yahweh, and we have the opportunity to go and counsel with you. And that's an opportunity for us to receive instruction and have that conversation. But in order to get there, we might not have a physical mountain that we have to overcome and travel up, but we do have these emotional mountains which we build up within ourselves, because a lot of the times that we have to counsel about something, it's not something that we want to talk to people about. And I know that one time I had something that I needed counseling for, that I had built up this emotional mountain that I did not want to talk to you about it. I did not want to talk to Elder about it. And I had to get over my mountain, I had to get over myself, and I had to go and thankfully talk with Elder about it and received the instruction that I know blessed me and saved me from the curses that I knew were assuredly waiting for me. And just the fact that because counseling is there, we still have to get over that mountain and go through what's uncomfortable in order to receive the blessings that are waiting for us.
Okay, excellent. You know, the verse that says you've gone around this mountain long enough, maybe because you're supposed to go up, not just go in a different direction. How about that verse to go along with what Grayson just said? By the way, some of you are thinking, man, Rabbi, you've been just yelling it out. Look, because I have been where you are. I have been broke many times. I have been with a marriage that struggled because it broke. Because every marriage struggles when it's broke. It's hard in a relationship to not be able to, have the money to do the things you want to do or need to do and that kind of thing. And it's a struggle. And it's a struggle in every relationship if you have that. And so I just want you to, because I've worked my you-know-what off to get out of that. And so I know what it takes. But I want you to know it's worth it. It's worth it. And some of you are thinking, well, you have all this because we send you money. I would have all this if you never sent me money. I could go rebuild this from scratch without any of this. Why? Because I've done this for so many years. I know now what to do. I've made all those mistakes. I've earned the information. I've earned the knowledge and the wisdom. You could take all this away and I'll still build something again from scratch without a problem because I know how to do it now. What you need to do is you have to go through the process of getting there, which is to learn how to do it, then do it. Then maybe you could also share that with somebody someday and encourage them that they could do it too. Money is not, lack of money is the root of all evil. It's misery. Having money can be a problem, or the pursuit of it in a wrong way can be a problem. But not having it brings all kinds of evil. Evil is what? We did the teaching. Suffering. You know anybody without money that isn't suffering? It's hard. All right, Rob?
Okay, from Sarah Beth, 1921. Why does it seem like Yahweh is concerned that the people will come up the mountain when he knows they will be so afraid that they will stand at a distance? Is there something I'm missing?
I don't know that there's a simple answer to this. Look, on the one hand, I would agree that the likelihood is that they'll respond out of fear. So why would you think that they would go up the mountain? Now remember, this is all being set up preparatory to the voice scaring the you-know-what out of them. Okay? So if they think there's something valuable, as anybody, as people, human beings, they would try to break through to get to have access to be in the front of the line, because they think something special and extra is coming. So he's saying, no, you set up these boundaries so that they don't come up. Of course, he also knows that once you start talking, they're not going to want to even listen, and they're not going to want to come running up the mountain. But prior to that, he didn't want them to want to try to break up there and go. Because you have this thing that plays out going forward, Korach, Dathan, Aviram, etc., even Aaron and Miriam. Well, who do you think you are? We can go talk to him. We're not, he saved all of us out of Egypt, blah, 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 blah. So this is pre him speaking. Right? He doesn't start talking till chapter 20. So this is the beginnings, right? There's starting to be the shofar sounds and thick clouds. He's saying, look, make sure that you do not, that the people don't break through. Set these boundaries. That's actually started in verse 12, where he says, set these boundaries, don't let anybody pass through. Okay? All right, next.
Okay, Michael says, Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. Is 18:5 the events of Mount Sinai, the fruition of 3:12, the sign to Moshe encamping on the mountain of Elohim, or is that the location of the temple?
Okay, so 18:5, it says where they were encamped at the Mount of Elohim. And what was the other one, 3?
3:12.
Yeah, look, this is where he's got the burning bush deal, all right, in 3:12. And so that would be the same mountain here that's going on. So it's not about the location of the temple. This is the same mountain that he was at before with the bush.
Okay, from Sarah Beth, Exodus 20, verse 11. Is there an element of Abba asking us to emulate him in this command?
In 2011, for in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested. Well, yeah, I mean, that would be the same idea of me saying, 6 days you shall labor. And then you rest from those efforts on the seventh day.
Okay, Sandy Williams was asking about tithing. She says, is it okay to tithe online on Saturday or on Shabbat?
Okay, bringing offerings, tithing would all be okay to do on Shabbat. Remember when I talked about Paul doing a gathering of things, it was, not like just putting a check in an envelope or cash in an envelope and putting it in a box. They were dealing with produce, they were dealing with animals and other things, and not just what would be monetary exchange. Okay, so this would be a whole non-Sabbath worthy event. Okay? Yes, you can do your tithing online. Now, of course, if you don't need to do it on Saturday, don't do it on Saturday. Why would you need to do that? Now, if you happen to live here and you come here on Saturday and that's the time to bring your envelope, that's when you bring your envelope, okay? If you're online and you always do it online, you can always do it on a different day. You don't have to do it on Saturday, okay? Next.
Okay, I had a couple questions on 1922. Daphne Neighbors, Exodus 19:22 is the quote-unquote priest here referring to Moshe and Aaron. And Mike Robillard says 19:22 mentions priests. This was before the Levitical priesthood was set up. Is there any idea what type of priesthood was this, or what type of priesthood was this? Could it have been a part of the Melchizedek priesthood?
I don't think it was that. And I think that it could be that the priest part may be a little misleading. It may be talking more about the leaders, so to speak, because priests would be looked at as leaders. Because you're right, this is before the Levites get chosen, because that doesn't happen until after the golden calf. Okay? And so it doesn't say that here. It just simply lets us know, and let the priests who come near Yahweh set themselves apart. This idea of those who would be serving before Yahweh is really that idea of what we think of as a priest, someone who has a role to serve before Yahweh. So whoever these men were that Moses was looking to be part of that at that point, that they would need to be set apart. But it doesn't tell us who they are at this point. Next.
From Michael, it says, lastly, in 1823, saying, if we do what our job description says for our roles in this life, i.e. husband, father, son, brother, then all will be fine.
Sure. In 23, it says, if you do this word, and the Elohim commands you, then you shall be able to stand, and all those people will also go to their place in peace. So we talked about that a little bit earlier, yes.
Donna Stevens, 1820 through 22, in the home, could this be setting a good example to our children in our walk so they can teach their children? If they ask for help with bigger matters, we can offer good advice if we have it.
I mean, look, it's a right vertical structure. I mean, your children, until they have their own bubbles popped, they're not necessarily going to be interested in the scriptural sort of guidance that you would want to maybe give them, but you live the example so that they see you and they see what you're doing, because remember, what you do is going to speak volumes more than whatever comes out of your mouth. And as far as the metaphor, yes, you should expect that children should be able to handle certain things on their own and other things they should bring to you and get counsel with. But that's something that you have to teach them to do through experience. Hey, that's the kind of thing you probably should have asked me about, and then maybe in the future they'll ask you about these kind of things so that they can get advice and get counsel. But when it comes to the children and this walk, please understand you can't force the issue. You can raise them as perfect as you can, and some of them, if you have, let's say you have 5 children, and you raise them all exactly the same, I can't even tell you what percentage of them will or won't end up walking this, and immediately. Immediately meaning like they'll start walking it all the way from that point forward. They may have to have that bubble pop moment in their 20s, 30s, or 40s like you did. And that's very frustrating for us as parents because we see and we know what we know, but they have to still they have to walk out their own salvation in fear and trembling. Okay, Philippians 2:12. All right, what else?
MTOI, Dessa, in Exodus 23, you are to have no other gods but me. Is it Yeshua speaking, and if so, what about the Father?
Okay, so when you're I think I want to refer you back to the no other name teaching. Okay? Most of the time, the interaction with the people is the Son, and most of the time where you see Yahweh mentioned, it's the Son. Even though the Father and the Son scripturally have the same name. 2 different beings. We have in Genesis, Yahweh calls down fire and brimstone from Yahweh. All right? So they have the same name, or they use the same name anyway in Scripture. But when Yeshua shows up in the flesh, he says, I came to point out the Father, and who is he talking to? The Jews. And the Jews' response is, what are you talking about? We've always had the Father. And he's like, no, you've always had me. So that's part of what's referring back to here, which is why we understand Yeshua to be the lawgiver. And so in this case, I believe it's Yeshua speaking. However, it might as well be the Father speaking because Yeshua said, I only say what he says to say. So if it comes from me, it's coming from the Father. So go back to the no other name teaching. It should help with that. All right, next.
Mark S. 19, Exodus 19:13. What is Yovel? Is it a type of animal horn?
Exodus 19:13. It says, when the trumpet sounds long, let them come near the mountain. Okay, I don't have the Hebrew in front of me. I don't know what word they used there. Okay? And so, what word did you put on there for the Yovel? Yovel is a jubilee. So I don't know if that's the Hebrew word there, but it's not the shofar, which is the ram's horn or the animal's horn. So it could be a trumpet like the silver trumpets that they're told to make later. It's a sound, though. They're saying when you hear the sound that sounds like a trumpet, let them come near the mountain. Now, of course, nobody's blowing a trumpet. The people are not told to blow a trumpet. They're going to hear something that's like the sound of a trumpet. And so he's just simply saying, when you hear this, the sound, and by the way, this sound is what we also think of as the return of Yeshua. You're going to hear this trumpet sound, which will be a jubilee type of thing, a Yovel type of thing, right? And these things are usually announced with the sounding of a trumpet. All right, next.
Okay, Donna Stevens, 20, verse 23. Can we read this as we don't twist, bend, and spin worldly, mundane things as if they are set-apart things, and we don't desire self-sovereignty or self-exaltation?
I suppose you could read that. I mean, it's talking about making idols. I mean, it says, you do not make, besides me, mighty ones of silver or gold, etc., for yourselves. So certainly you can read that. Look, don't choose for yourself how to do these things. Don't choose how you want to worship me. Don't choose how you want to make an image of me or any of these things. I already told you I don't want an image of me. I don't want these things. Don't take it upon yourself to add or take away from what I said is more what's going on here. But also, remember, this is the common behavior of everybody around them, is to make things out of silver and gold and claim it's their God. And so this is really more about don't imitate. This goes back to the teaching I did called do not do as they do. All right? Next.
Okay, from Walk Softly, chapter 20, verse 12, fifth commandment. Is it sufficient that if our fathers were abusive / neglectful, that we simply avoid talking about them and not speaking badly of them rather than, quote unquote, respect?
Okay, so think about this as more like no matter how good or bad they ever were, they may have been terrible, they may have been horrifically abusive. The point is, you are not to, they may do it to themselves, but you are not to shame them and be disrespectful. Disrespectful doesn't mean that you have to obey them. You can still say no in a respectful way. You can cut them out of your life in a respectful way. Okay, there's ways that you should not treat them because they are still responsible for bringing you into the world. Okay? And that's a role that they have, even if it was egg or sperm donor, so to speak. So it's a person you really didn't have a relationship with, but they were still the one who gave half the mix to get where you are. So there's a certain level of learning in the vertical to not show disrespect or to shame. They may shame themselves. If they do things that are horrible, that would be bringing shame on themselves. But it's not for you to make it worse or to add on. Okay? But also remember, every parent that's ever been in a church is going to demand that when you don't do what they say, you're not honoring their mother and father. Showing them honor does not mean doing everything they say. Obedience is not required there. You can show them honor and disagree with them. Hey, I know you do Christmas and I don't. I'm not going to pick on you or anything like that. It's just I ask that you respect that I don't, and I'm going to respect that you do. Okay? All right, next.
Okay, Tom Losardo, Exodus chapter 20 are the first 5 commandments, your relationship between you and Yahweh, and the second 5, your relationship between you and your fellow man.
More or less. I mean, you can see you could definitely see the 4th and 5th. Well, the 5th one for sure is being sort of transitional. Okay, where it kind of does both. Honoring mother and father also has to do with honoring the vertical structure. And so, the first 4 for sure I would say have to do with him. The last 6 about us, but even 5 and 5 would be fine. That 5th commandment. Okay, next.
Erica Barker, is keeping the Sunday as Sabbath the same as calling the golden calf Yahweh?
Probably to some degree, And I only say to some degree because they knew, all right, that calf wasn't Yahweh. A lot of Christians have no idea that the Sabbath didn't get moved to Sunday. They don't know that the Catholic Church, they don't know, so they're doing things out of ignorance. So it's not quite the same thing. The people made a calf and claimed it was Yahweh. Most people keep Sunday because it was what was given to them. It's already been existing now for about 2,000 years plus. And so they had nothing to do with that. They just came into they came into this movie while it was already playing, if you know what I'm saying. Okay? Whereas these people chose, Moses was gone, he was tarrying, they didn't know what happened to him. They decided to take matters in their own hand. People on Sunday going to church aren't doing that. They didn't just each choose to do Sunday. That's all they knew was there. They decided to believe in the stuff that the church was teaching, and the church met on Sunday. They received it by default. So I wouldn't compare the two from that point of view. Next.
That's all we have, Rabbi.
We're good, because I was just about saying ready to be done. It worked out. Because I've got to be in zone 2 in 11 and a half hours. And apparently Grayson will be there, because he's all excited. All right. All right. Thank you all for tonight's study. It was great. All right, fantastic. Let's go ahead and get someone to close us in prayer. And why don't we get Grayson to come up since we picked on him so much? We'll let him come and close us in prayer. And he's such a good sport about it. All right, if you'll all rise, we're going to go ahead and close in prayer.
Abba, Father, thank you for allowing us to gather here tonight, and thank you for giving us this day, this Shabbat, this time where we can set aside all of our concerns and cares of the world and really just focus on you and completely on you. Thank you for giving us your word, and thank you for giving us a teacher to help explain it and to teach it, and for us to have an understanding of it that is truly coming from you. Please allow us to take everything that we've learned and allow us to apply it, allow us to incorporate it into our lives so that we can become less like us and more like you. In your Son's name, Yeshua, Amen v'Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right, if you want to be on camera, come on this side of the room. We're going to do our little wave goodbye thing here. We'll see if Constantine will wake up before the wave. He's about to fall down. He's so tired. All right, are we ready? We're ready, all right. So we're all going to look at the camera over here, and we're going to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom, and we're going to tell them that we love them. We're going to do that other stuff that we do, but you realize that for a lot of these people, it's Shabbat where they are now, and so it's not the end of the Shabbat, it's not the new week or any of that stuff. So we're just going to say Shabbat Shalom, and we love you. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.